I'm alive. Can confirm this is true. I'm just going to give you fine folks a few minutes to trickle on into the stream there. I guess in the meantime, let me just put this here. All right, let's just send this off here. So, yeah, Le Pen, she did real good over there in France. Not sure if you folks were paying attention to the French elections. It's a thing. What a time we live in. You got to worry about these things. Right? That's the thing. If government was, at least limited in scope to the point where it was, let's say, how the founding fathers set it up, or at least early on in the U.S. experiment, people not having to pay a whole lot of attention to politics is quite normal. If your freedoms actually exist and flourish, yeah, politics, right? But in the modern world we live in today, yeah, we've all got to be paying attention. I probably should let me see it. Maybe put a post out on the old Facebook, let everyone know that I am streaming. Perhaps, nah, it's all good. Hey, if they miss out, it's their loss. All right. Let me just check and make sure though that this is okay. Look, I see it's working over there on the. Actually, let me show you folks here. Let me see. This actually might be a weird thing doing this, right? Let's try it anyways though. Oh, that would be weird actually. I was going to share the screen of. I'm over here. Actually, why not? Let's give it a shot here. Let's give it a shot. Share screen. Oh, all right. Let's just send this off here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's mute the volume. So there's me. This is me watching me. There. Okay, let me bring that back off. Anyways, there it is. Anyways, just so you know, yeah, I'm live streaming right now over there on Odyssey. And I'm also live streaming on Rumble. Actually, let me just check and make sure the Rumble one is working as well. Let me close up the other ones. I don't want to be using up too much of the bandwidth watching multiple streams at once. Let's see here what's going on over here on Rumble. Yep. It's going on, folks. It's going on. All three of them today. So that's a good thing. That's always a positive thing, right? Anyways, like I say, I'm just kind of giving a couple minutes here. Let people trickle into the stream. And for those of you who were paying attention, or maybe just want to know what the result of the election over there in France is, the Socialist Party down to 2%. Before Macron come to power, the Socialist Party, the Socialists were in power in France. Now they've been just like the Labour Party over in the UK, right? Now they've been relegated to, what, they get 2%? Not even enough. You have to get at least 5% to even get your funds back, right? For all your campaigning and all that stuff. But no, they've basically been kicked to the curb. And a lot of the other parties, whether they're on the right or the left or center, or whatever, you're seeing the big, huge representation of support for Marie Le Pen. Now, Macron did get a higher percentage of that support, but this is in France. They do it in kind of two stages. So this is just the election, or the results of the election that'll give you your two finalists, right? So Marine Le Pen and Macron, the establishment figure, right? They're the ones going to, the two figureheads that are going to have the runoff. But what you got to keep in mind is the far left and the people that are labeled as far right, which pretty much anyone left is or right of center, right? These days, they're all disenfranchised with the establishment in France, just like in our country, just like in the US. People are massively disenfranchised with the status quo, with the establishment, with the very corrupt system. What it is some of them are just given the wrong information. A lot of that misinformation that the establishment media likes to talk about, right? And they're constantly told all the time, well, Oh, no, it's the establishment. They're the ones that are going to protect you from the establishment. More status quo is going to help you get out from underneath the status quo. Anyways, like I say, but what we're seeing today is, think about it. So if you're disenfranchised with the system, with the status quo, with the establishment, whether you're on the right, left, or anywhere in between, are you going to choose to? Because that's the thing. Like I say, they'll only have two options on the ballot this time: Marine Le Pen or Macron. And if you're disenfranchised with the status quo, are you going to vote for Macron? Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, would it? Right? So what's their only option? Well, if you actually want change, you want to dip your toes in water, see what change is all about, what it's really like, right? Then, yeah, Marie Le Pen. That's your only option. And you got to think there's a lot of people in that country, especially the younger folks, are like, yeah, we would like a change. We heard a lot of rhetoric, right? The Socialist Party promised a lot, didn't deliver. Macron promised a lot, didn't deliver. Maybe you should try, like, look at the ones that have chosen to give the far right, although we're not talking, right? People that predominantly are called far right now today are just people that care about their freedoms in their country, pretty much. But hey, how's that worked out? UK seems to be just loving being out. I'm not hearing too much complaining about not being part of the European Union, right? Can you imagine, especially with the whole Ukraine quagmire in the mess? Imagine if the UK was part of that still, right? What about, like I said, that scary Viktor Orban? If you're a Hungarian over there right now and he just won a super majority, the ones who chose the far right, they seem to be loving their decision. No regrets whatsoever. Matter of fact, they doubled down and said, yeah, give me some more of that, right? So shifts are definitely happening. And I think we're going to see the same kind of thing. I don't want to, get the cart before the horse too much. I think we're going to see the exact same kind of thing happen, to the south here in the midterms. If things work out the way Trump and the right, or people just are, fighting against the status quo of their establishment, if they get things, like I say, if they can get the Congress, the lower house, the Senate, and all, they've already got lots of judges appointed. If they can get all their ducks in order, and have that couple more years to build and expand upon that, like they've been doing down there now, is, and now it's like, you support freedom or not? Because if you're one of those anti-Trumpers, you're getting kicked to the curb these days, right? Simple as that. They're being primaried out big time. But like I say, if they can keep, if the ones who are standing for freedom these days, right, which is a bad thing apparently, can put their ducks in order, wow, the sky's the limit in some countries. Now, Canada, yeah, the redheaded stepchild in the world. I don't know. Apparently, we got to go through a whole lot more hell yet. Apparently. But anyways, let's get beyond that. Let's just start and see, or let's start right over here at the very first story. Because, like I say, well, let me just bring the, obviously, as you folks can see here, the actual title for this live stream is COVID, Cryptos, C-18, Charest, the Canadian Coalition Against Freedom, and more. And yeah, there's more. There's more in store. So since COVID is the first one, let's just start right now. And of course, this is as it's pertaining when we're talking COVID now. Most of that part of COVID, like, it's in the back or the rear view mirror for the most part, for most people these days. Cross your fingers, right? But what COVID has brought to the forefront of all Canadians, to the minds of most or all Canadians, is this terrible socialist healthcare system in this country. Just massively, not just terrible, but big old fail. And that fail has not caused a lot of harm and obviously a lot of death and a lot of families going through a lot of grief these days, but it's going to continue on long into the future. Now, this particular one is a Globe and Mail article with a headline, Canada's hospital capacity crisis will remain long after the pandemic is over. To solve the country's capacity problem, experts say leaders need to finally confront the deeper flaws in how Canadian healthcare is structured. Yeah, that's true. That is true. So this was contributed by Robin Doolittle and Tom Cardozo, April 2nd, updated on the 5th. Yeah, hallway medicine. Not sure about how many of you folks have been to the hospital, but even long before this, my mother had an accident and I had to go. She injured her neck, and I had to go. Well, not had to. Went and visited her, but even then I was like, what in the heck? I mean, even then there was hallway medicine. There was, and what a strange thing to be walking down the hallway in a hospital. Like the indignities of actually being just stuck there. Like, look at these people in the hallway, man. Think of all that theft, all that taxation, all that money they steal from us on a regular basis to pay for this healthcare, right? Where's it going? Because it sure shit, as we know, isn't going to actually, better or benefit the healthcare system. No, it's going into bureaucrats, right? And the elite, the administrators. We know. I mean, come on. I mean, tell you the truth, I don't even have to really spend a whole lot of time on this because I think most of you and most Canadians are very much well aware of how failing this healthcare system truly is. But anyways, yeah, like I said, I won't waste too much time on this, but this basically goes on and to explain how terrible the healthcare system. Now, what the remedies may offer or provide may not very well be what you would be touting or agree with. But one thing I see these days is people on the left, right, and anywhere in between these days are recognize that, yeah, this healthcare system is failing massively and severely. And if you're a boomer, all you boomers are going to be moving off into that healthcare system that, yeah, you see what happened to a lot of your parents, the silent and the greatest generation, right? Overlooked, forgotten, ignored. A lot of them are all dead now, right? Well, listen. That's what your future. You're just getting a sneak peek right now of your future. And matter of fact, if things don't change soon, it's going to be even worse than that. So, yeah, just something to consider. Points to ponder, I guess. Right. Anyways, let me close this one up. I'm going to try to close up these articles as I go because I got a tremendous amount of them in the background there today. But anyways, let me just actually no, going on. So actually, this was another one here. Let me get this. Share. Check this one out. Another fact check. I love these fact checks. Well, what I love about them is proving just how ridiculous these fact checks are. How the manipulation, how heavy it is, right? So here we go. This is an AAP fact check, right? Trusted, accurate, and impartial. Hey, you didn't know they were comedians too, huh? Yeah, they double as that apparently. Just kidding. Anyway, social media claim tampers with even the fact check claim, right? Is social media claim tampers with New Zealand High Court ruling. They tampered with the ruling. What they do, put some kind of a weapon to the judge's head, or no, it would be multiple judges probably if you're talking about the High Court, right? After the fact, I'm not sure what that headline even means. Let's try to find. They tampered with the New Zealand High Court ruling. Like I say, like, how could I could just imagine what it is. I'm just thinking about being in the minds of these people. Oh, how am I going to word this? Right? How am I going to fucking word this and manipulate it where the legal class here is going to say, okay, yeah, that'll pass muster, right? When the editorial board, I mean, just be thankful, I guess, that you're not a contributor to these outlets, because wow, what a nightmare it must be. Anyway, so check this out. Here's the first part. What was claimed? The New Zealand High Court ruled the vaccine mandate was a gross violation of human rights. That was the claim, folks. That was the claim. That the High Court ruled that the vaccine mandate was a gross violation of human rights. Okay. Our verdict was mostly false. So mostly false. A judge ruled the mandate unjustifiably limited some human rights of around 300 people, but he did not declare it a gross violation of human rights. So, like, talk about nitpicking. And that's the thing. So what? Rather than it's admitting that it was a violation of human rights, but I guess it just wasn't a gross one. So how dare you interject your adjective, the word gross, in there, or we're going to fact check you. And because you interjected the word gross in there, we're going to not just say it's true, but you can leave out the hyperbole or rhetoric, right? Or the words such as gross. No. Like, really, that should be mostly true, but no need to use the word gross, right? But no, they go the opposite way. And like I say, let's just continue on. This is hilarious. This is how you know how much failures these people are, and why you got to know. Even though things aren't looking so great at sometimes at certain points of the day, or even point in the week, or the point in the month, you got to think freedom's going to win out against these incompetent and inept people at the end of the day, folks. You just have to, right? Or hope at least. So a social media post claims that a Jacinda Ardern vaccine mandate has been judged a gross violation of human rights by the New Zealand High Court. The NZ Prime Minister was left reeling following the damning assessment by the court, according to an article by News Punch, a website known as a source of misinformation. The gross violation claims circulated widely on social media, including on Facebook. Here, and here, and here. It's just the same claim, but it's like, oh, but they put it in all different places. But it's still the same claim, right? Yeah, but it's just in a bunch of places. Oh, yeah, welcome to the world of social media. All kinds of places to put it on social media, right? Not just on your page. Anyways, but the claim is mostly false, although the judge did find that the vaccine mandate for police and New Zealand Defence Forces staff imposed an unjustified limit on the applicant's rights. He did not say the mandate was a gross. So once again, just the little tiny discrepancy of how dare they use the word gross, right? They don't like the word gross, apparently. Apparently, gross triggers these folks. Gross. Well, that alone is pretty gross. Okay. The case in question was brought to the High Court by 3 unvaccinated members of the New Zealand Police and NF who sought a judicial review into the COVID-19 public health response. Anyway, so rather than... anyways, the good news is, obviously, the mandate was overturned. So, once again, even in New Zealand, that Jacinda, just like Trudeau, that must really piss her off. And Trudeau, yeah, if they're coming, you're going to get it next, Trudeau. If you think that you're going to get away with what you did, well, I mean, you got away with it. But if you think that it's going to continue and you're not going to suffer the consequences for what you did to the people in this country and what you're continuing to do in terms of the federal mandate, like I say, your time's coming and you're going to suffer the shame and the embarrassment, rightfully so, for what you've done. And hopefully much more than that. Anyway, so I'll just move down here to the bottom to the final verdict, the verdict down here. So the claim that the New Zealand High Court ruled the vaccine mandate a gross violation of human rights is mostly false, while the judge ruled the mandate for police and defense staff represent an unjustified limitation on some rights under the Bill of Rights Act, which includes human rights, says right there, based on their own verdict. He did not say the vaccine mandate was a gross violation of human rights. So the claim is mostly inaccurate, but includes minor elements. So once again, so there you go. They're making, so they're using, see, this is the thing. They didn't like the word gross, but they're going to use the word mostly. It's mostly inaccurate, right? Really? Well, that's an adjective. You're adding your own. Is it mostly? What did you measure it by? Once again, we already know anyways. These fact checkers, they're just opinions. They're not facts at all, as you can clearly see here. So let me just pull this one off. But that's as far as I'm concerned, that's great news for the fine folks of New Zealand, or at least those people who were affected by those mandates. Anyways, let me just check and see who's in the chat and say hi. Say hi to everyone. Hopefully, got some people joined us already now. Tax slave. Yeah. I know all about the tax slave. We're all tax slaves. Welcome, fellow tax slave. Hey, man, long time no see. You're looking good, bro. Thank you very much, tax slave. I'd say the same, but I have no idea what you look like. You're looking like. But thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining the stream. David, is this Texas, David? There's so many. Oh, it is. Greetings from Texas. Yeah. My man, David down in Texas. If I ever get my ass down there, I definitely got to go see you, David. Definitely got to chat. And, the more, I'm having a hard time these days. I'm listening to Abbott and I'm listening to DeSantis. It's like, damn, Florida, Texas. Wow. It's hard to pick between the two, but I'm just so glad that you Americans have those states, where you can get away, where you have some reprieve away from so much authoritarianism. Man, I wish we had such thing here in Canada, but alas, I digress. Oh, I should have brought that up, actually, didn't I? No, I didn't. Anyways, yeah, thanks for joining the stream there, David. Be vegan now, right on. Hey, what's going on? Be vegan now. Ban vax mandates to same degree as racial discrimination. Yeah, ban government and private businesses from having vax mandates. Yeah. That's the thing. Well, I mean, there should be no such thing, and I wouldn't even say you'd have to use the word ban. Really, is just just don't have such a thing, right? Remove the pretense. That's the thing, but of course, that requires a culture of people who think like you and I, right? That is the problem when you live in a democracy, as I've mentioned so many times before, is when you live, especially under Canada's first past the post system, right? It doesn't even have to be that 50% plus one, which is what's required now in France. Now, between Marine Le Pen and they do have proportional representation and stuff over there in those countries, right? I believe. Anyways, in some of those European countries, actually, I can't say 100% on France, but now that it's between Macron and Le Pen, for them to secure a victory, they have to get 50% plus one. So you actually have to get an actual minority. Now it's or a majority. Now that's a pretty slim majority, 50% plus one, but it is, and it technically meets the definition of majority. Whereas here in Canada, under our first past the post system, well, as we know, Trudeau and Harper before him got a majority, or no, Trudeau got the minority. Right now in 2015, he got a majority though, right? But either way, the politicians in this country, whether they're liberals or the conservatives, have gotten a majority vote with less than 40% of the voting population. And then you take the voter turnout in this country is usually around 60 something percent. Over in France, even they had what? High turnout, I think it was in the high 70s or something, maybe even the 80% somewhere today. So, when you're talking a majority, that actually there's a lot more voices in France that will represent, not advocating for that kind of majority mob rule, but I'm just showing you that how things work in this country make it difficult whether you're in the minority or the majority. Really, are you part of the establishment or not? It's really the way the rules are set up in this country. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Are you part of the establishment? Then it doesn't matter if you have a minority or a majority. You can get whatever you want. But yeah, if you're part of that small fringe minority of people with unacceptable views, like myself or like yourself, oh yeah, no, sorry, you're gonna get kicked to the curb. You're gonna be sitting at the little kids table, right? And it's a sad reality, but it is what it is. We're working hard to try to fix that, though. Vax mandates are no better than racial discrimination. Yes, I agree. Those worried should wear COVID-resistant hazmat suit PPE with the helmet, with filter and battery paper, and let everyone else. Exactly. It's a beautiful thing. There's so many technologies out there. I mean, and things that are available to you. Now, I get inflation's making things expensive, but yeah, you could buy yourself a full one-piece hazmat suit, I would expect, right? And just load up on your, I don't know, your disinfecting, your whatever, your N95 mask, stockpile them things. Like I say, what you need to protect yourself are all out there for the people who are scared to death. Why do you feel you have to mandate? That's the thing with people, these collectivists, is they want to mandate and impose themselves on me. It's like, no, you worry about yourself. I'm okay taking care of myself, right? That's the way it should be anyways. That's the way it properly should be. Petition for ballot initiative and tell your representatives and candidates to ban from government jobs anyone who wants vax mandates. Vote of no confidence to fire tyrants. And listen, once again, you're preaching the choir here. I'm right there with you, but we got a whole lot of Canadians in this country who disagree with this, sadly. Freedom of assembly and travel are basic. I agree, 100%, 100%. Many unvaxxed are less likely to get spread and die from COVID. There's other factors. People must be treated as individuals. Right on. Exactly. I'm in total agreement with you. I couldn't said it better. Thank you very much, actually, for your contributions. Appreciate that. David, these modern tyrants are more repulsive than mango liver chutney. Mango liver chutney. Ugh, that sounds gross. Yeah, that does sound repulsive. But yeah, I would agree. Yeah, not nearly as repulsive as these tyrants. I'm with you. Forcing someone to choose between dying from a vaccine or dying from being unemployed was never for health. You got that right. Okay, one more we got here. Many blacks reportedly more likely to be dangerous, violent criminals, but racial discrimination is illegal in many cases, as should be. Doesn't mean there are no whites that are much more dangerous. Same as back. Exactly. Yes, it shouldn't matter, right? The color of the skin or any of that stuff. Anyways, I'm completely agreeing with you. Is we have to. That's the whole point. And like you mentioned yourself, is that's why we have to treat each other as individuals, not just people who are part of a group or collective, right? I'm totally with you there. Hey, Jet Gorgon. Hi from New Westminster. Finally free. Right on. I would assume you mean in the UK, New Westminster, right? Awesome. That's great. And glad that you joined the stream today. Really appreciate that. Actually, if you wouldn't mind, if you're new, if you wouldn't mind, well, depend on, I guess, where you're watching this from. If you're watching it from YouTube, hit that like and subscribe. Actually, I suppose no matter what platform you're looking on, I think they're all are called like. Actually, on Rumble, I believe it's just the plus symbol. But any positive feedback that you can offer, and like I say, if you want to see notifications or get notifications when I go live in the future, hit that subscribe would be appreciative. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't move from Texas now. Yeah, I hear you. Just going to read a few more comments and then I'll get back into it there, folks. Motive being we are in the end times, not due at CO2, but the precession cycle eclipsing the galactic plane. Greg Byron, not due to, but the precession. I'm not sure on that stuff there, Greg, but thanks for joining the stream. Put in ranked choice voting. I mean, that would be at least, right, better than the current system we have now. Although, to be honest with you, I just got to be honest with you, I'm just not a fan of picking masters either way. But anyways, hey, what's going on, Gato? Anyways, just give me a sec here, folks, because I'm going to get back into this. Because like I say, we got a lot of stuff to cover. Like I say, do appreciate all you fine folks. Actually, you folks that are just joining us now, just to let you know, yeah, the French elections, I already mentioned it earlier on there, but the French elections, the first anyways, part of their elections has now been narrowed down to Le Pen and Macron, with Macron edging out Le Pen by a few points. But once again, now it'll come down to a runoff between them two. And with Marie Le Pen showing a higher number of support or level of support than she got even last time, and she gave Macron a pretty good run for the money. It's looking now, and like I say, with the Socialist Party in disarray and some of the other challengers to the establishment not doing so well, it looks like a lot of those people, those who are disenfranchised with the status quo and the current system over there, may very well end up choosing to vote for Le Pen, which could really upset the apple cart over there in France and the whole European Union experiment, right? Anyways, let me get back, like I say, to this article. A new article. Let me bring this one up. I should call myself this. Actually, this should be nothing. I should start calling my streams fact checks. Fact check everything, because I'm the one that's genuinely fact checking. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I see it's showing my quality on my stream is kind of degrading for some reason. Get back up there. Connection is unstable if you're on Wi-Fi. I'm not on Wi-Fi. Not on Wi-Fi. Never on Wi-Fi. Anyways, so actually, let me scroll up from that point. That was a highlighted point there. So this was of course is related to COVID as well. Province records 9 COVID-related deaths, changes the way it reports hospitalizations. Only people hospitalized for COVID being counted on new COVID Watch webpage, not those with the virus. So as we've seen, a lot of manipulation way after the fact. Think about it. If this kind of proper reporting was done very early on, 2 years ago, or at least close to that timeline, Canadians would actually have a much better grasp and understanding of how deadly or dangerous this virus is to us all, right? But the way the media portrayed it was, ooh, it'll kill everybody, right? And it got a lot of Canadians believing that kind of rhetoric and scared of the mind. To this day, there are countless Canadians out there who are scared to death to even barely move because of the fear instilled in them by those in the established media and the ruling class. Once again, and they use these massively inflated numbers to the tune, some of them, as we see here, which basically double them. So here in New Brunswick, the threshold that the Higgs government put in terms of putting New Brunswick back in lockdown when they did that the last go around right? And imposing all these restrictions on us as if they got to the point of 100 people being in the hospitals. That was the threshold. And when it met that threshold, it was barely like 101 or something, 100, 101, and we're in lockdown. Well, as it turns out, actually, no, the number was actually half of that, just like now. So right here, it's saying that New Brunswick has recorded 9 more COVID-related deaths and has 78 people in hospital because of the virus, right? So 78 people are actually in there. So even right now, and the numbers are supposedly higher now, right? But even now, there's only 78, so still wouldn't have met that threshold. But although the hospitalization between March 27 and April 2nd appeared to have dropped from the 142 reported last Tuesday, people are initially admitted to hospital for another reason and later test positive for COVID are no longer included. So that's why. So that 142 number is just, you broke your leg. You went to the hospital just to get a cast on your leg, and they have to, because that's their policy, to test you for COVID, and you just happen to be COVID. You weren't going there for it. You weren't even complaining about it. You probably didn't even know you had it, obviously, right? But yeah, they included you, right? So this kind of manipulation, once again, of the numbers is what got us to the point where they imposed, how many levels and layers of restrictions and impositions on our inherent rights and freedoms multiple times in this country. Yeah, not just in this province, across this country, and you all know it. And once again, that's just the hospitalization number. Look at this, folks. There's more. There is more. There's definitely more. Now, check this out. You know how you see the way they report now, and you've seen this on the Ontario dashboard. I don't know if you pay attention to the New Brunswick one, but, whatever these COVID dashboards that, whatever particular jurisdiction, province you're living in, right, is, where was I going with it? Oh, yeah, is, they break it down as the vaccinated or the unvaccinated, right? As to who was in hospital or who was ICU or all that crap. Well, now, or, who's considered protected or unprotected. Well, now, like I say, some truth is coming out about this. So listen to this, folks. Who's considered protected now? Well, let me tell you who's considered protected and who's considered not protected. So here we go. Individuals that are unreported or unprotected by vaccine continue to have the highest rate of hospitalizations for COVID-19 and death. So listen, if you were to read this, individuals that are unprotected by vaccine continue to have the highest rate of hospitalization for COVID-19 and death. So just anyone who's not paying a whole lot of attention, who are not as knowledgeable as I am, and pay attention to all this stuff, because that's what's to have the kind of, knowledge about this stuff that I do. You had to spend as much time and effort paying meticulous attention to all this stuff. Now, to me, it jumps out at me. Most people, they just read that. Oh, so it's still them damn unvaccinated. Oh, them damn unvaccinated. Look at them. They're out there wreaking havoc, killing grandmas, destroying people. Look, so that would be like, oh, it's those ones who are unprotected by a vaccine. So the unvaccinated, right? No. Because here's the reality of it all. The province defines unprotected as fully vaccinated more than 6 months, partially vaccinated, and unvaccinated. So if you're considered unprotected if you're fully vaccinated, but it's been 6 months. So what are we in here? April. So November. So if the last time you had a shot was in November, it's 6 months out. Even if you had 2, 3, whatever, you're not considered protected. You're in the same class as the unvaccinated and the partially unvaccinated. Now, isn't that wild, right? So when they're saying, oh, it's them unprotected people, well, that are filling up the hospitals, right? Or the ICUs, well, unprotected, not quite the same as unvaccinated, is it? Once again, manipulation of facts using particular words and distortions of reality to suit a narrative. And it's all right here. It's all literally right here. But of course, they're so reliant, the hacks in the establishment media, they're so reliant on the fact that most Canadians would never take the time to read through all this information. Oh, that's just I just don't have time for that. Well, ignorance may be bliss in sometimes, but your ignorance is causing a whole lot of harm, a whole lot of pain, probably a whole lot of deaths too, right? Anyway, so there's that. I'll pull that one back off there, folks. Like I say, lots of information. So those would be. Actually, you got one more as it pertains to COVID, I believe. So let me just bring that one up and move beyond that. Tell you the truth, I want to get to the point where I don't have to report on this COVID crap at all. I'm so over it. I'm sure you folks are too, but just typically as a matter of record, and hopefully that some Canadians who aren't already privy to this information may very well. I do this so that maybe someday they'll get a chance to watch this and maybe learn some truth, because they're definitely not getting it from the establishment. That's the thing. Even though the establishment might bury it in a report somewhere, you hear the way they talk, right? On the radio, on the airwaves, on the television, on the tube, all that stuff. Now, like I say, or even using headlines and stuff. You see how much they distort reality, like I say, to suit a narrative. But here we are once again. BC moves to weekly COVID reporting and changes how deaths are counted. As of Thursday, there were 334 people in hospital with COVID-19, including 38 in critical care. The British Columbia government has made, now these folks are different, going backwards here, or totally different direction, I should say, has made the switch to providing COVID-19 updates on a weekly rather than daily basis, saying the change aligns with a shift away from a case management model to surveillance model. Health Ministry Bulletin says the weekly reports will focus on identifying meaningful changes in key COVID-19 measurements and trends over time. It also says the reporting on deaths is changing to count all deaths that occurred within 30 days of the person's positive lab result, regardless of whether the underlying cause of death was found to be linked to COVID-19. So let me read that for you folks one more time here. It also says the reporting on deaths is changing to count all deaths that occurred within 30 days of the person's positive lab result, regardless of whether the underlying cause of death was found to be linked to COVID-19. So they're going the opposite way out in BC, right? So from one extreme on the East Coast, the opposite extreme on the West Coast, right? And there is a big difference, not just in reporting, but I see even a lot of cultural differences on the East and West here. I just got to point that out there, folks. But look at what is, like, how it touches that. They're literally going to just, what I guess they just want to pump them numbers up, because that's what you get doing that stuff, right? You're going to pump them numbers up. Once again, seems like it has a purpose or an intention behind it. I wonder what that could possibly be. The change is the latest the province has made in its approach to manage. Anyways, folks, I'll pull this one off because I think that was pretty much the most important thing. But they're going the opposite direction out there in BC, where they're going to include, and like, even if it's 30 days after, like, so you hit by a blast, right? Doesn't matter. I COVID. Like I say, complete. Who are truly misinforming, right? That's the thing. They call people who are challenging that narrative. They call us who we're out there misinforming people. I'm actually properly informing people. These hacks in the establishment who are misinforming people, as you can clearly see. I mean, it's clearly right there. It's so obvious, like you have to be blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid. Pretty much. Or a progressive these days. Once again, I repeat myself in a way. I'm sorry, folks. If you're a progressive that's a good person, well, you better find yourself another label, because they've soiled that one badly, right? Even liberals, oh my goodness, how I would be ashamed to call myself. That's the thing. Although it'd be nice to take these words back, take them back away from the authoritarians, but it doesn't look like anyone's willing to do that. Everyone looking to throw out the baby with the bathwater, tear it all down, destroy everything. Well, whatever. I mean, sometimes that might work. Sometimes might be counterproductive, but either way, let me scroll, just check out a couple more of the comments here. You folks see what's going on. Okay, actually, where are we at here? Okay, where are we at here? Been watching you for a while. Just refound your vlog. Oh, New West BC. Free as I can. Free as in I can go to the pub, selling papers. Actually, that's not a good thing. I was going to say, well, that's a good thing. I mean, it is a good thing, but here's the problem, right? It's that boiling frog approach, right? It's like, That's the thing. Canadians are pushed so far, so much authoritarianism has been imposed on us, and the rhetoric and how much they're going to impose on us further. I guess even the slightest backtrack, even a 1% reprieve from the authoritarianism, there are people like, oh, I feel so much better now. I'm feeling free. It's like, well, I don't know. Are you really? Like, this is the problem, right? This is the problem with this constantly moving of the goalposts in terms of what it is or what's accepted as being free, to the point where, like I say, it could be very Orwellian or Huxleyan, ADOS, New World Order or 1984. I don't, or new, not New World Order, Brave New World, right? Who knows which way it's going to go? But I mean, at the very least, we got a lot of work ahead of us to get people at least just on board and understand the basis of what it is to be a free human being. Because without that, in the absence of that, I mean, there's a lot of us putting in a lot of hard work and effort, right? And it could be all in vain if people don't at least just have a very small, minute, but firm grasp on what the hell it even means to be a free human being. It's tough. It's rough. That's BS. Everyone knows not vaccinated had to set. Yeah, no one I know that's not vaccinated had to set foot in the hospital either. Matter of fact, one guy that I know who's a big, heavy set guy and even has asthma brushed it off. And it was before, I think that was actually back before even the Omicron. So it must have been either Delta or one of the other variants, anyways. And he was the candidate. What was he in his mid 60s? Like I say, hugely obese. Or I shouldn't say huge obese. That's going a little bit too far on that. But a heavy set guy. He's a big guy, right? And I believe he has asthma. Would have been apparently he would do it a candidate that he should have been dead long ago, but no, he's doing the very best, and he got over it with pretty minimal. He said more or less like a cold, a bad cold or flu. Anyways, I'm going to scroll down here, folks. Down here, okay. What do we get? What do you think about biological oligarchs? Own nothing for free in Canada that walk. Oh, I'm having a hard. Are you using text to speech or something? Because that's what do you think about biological oligarchs own nothing for free in Canada that walk Canadian land? I can't. Wish I could answer you that question there, Nikita. And it might even be just a translation thing. And I do apologize if I'm having a hard time figuring what you're asking there. But for free in Canada that walk Canada land. Maybe someone else can maybe figure that out and maybe reinterpret that or reword that maybe for me if you understand where he's getting at. And I could try to answer the question, but I'm having a hard time on that. Sorry. Okay. Trevor Harrison. Hey, what's going on, Trevor? Yeah, and our people have capitulated very hard to be. Yeah, and our people have capitulated very hard to be a libertarian these days. Capitulated very hard. Capitulated is like you've given your opponents, the win more or less, right? So you've given your opponents to be a libertarian. I'm having a hard time on that one too. Once again, I'm not sure what's going on here. But yeah, not sure what you were saying there. Okay, so I'm going to move on there, folks. Just give me a sec here. Oh, there's this. Check this out. Like I was saying to some folks who I know who live in this province, I said, well, I won't tell you what to do, but I at least mentioned that there's a good chance that these kind of mandates, these authoritarian mandates, and the firing of people and all this stuff, there's a pretty good chance that that's not going to survive any challenges or even public opinion, right? And it seems like I was probably right. Well, I mean, look at how many things we've seen dropped. Like a lot of the restrictions dropped. Well, especially thanks to the truckers, by the way. Trucker protests had a huge effect in all this. Anyways, this is another New Brunswick article. Unvaxxed workers But you see how they do that? Unvaxxed, right? If we call vax, like they call it, if we use the word vax with the two X's, right? They say we're using it in a derogatory way, right? But they can do it, and it's just fine. Well, double standards, hypocrisy, and all. What would they have if they didn't have double standards and hypocrisy? Not a whole lot left going for them. Unvaxxed workers set to return to vulnerable sectors. So this is even to the vulnerable sectors. But once again, I mean, I don't want to see, you know, unvaccinated people punished and fired for such things. And I hope they're definitely, at least everyone's being proactive and making sure. Because the other thing I don't want is to see a whole bunch of other people in these long-term care facilities continue to die needlessly, whether that's happening from getting the virus from vaccinated or unvaccinated. How about we stop playing these politically divisive games and do what I said 2 years ago when this first started? And yeah, you can go back, watch my live streams and see that. Yeah, I said that is, how about you protect the vulnerable, the immunocompromised, the elderly, right? Stop targeting good people or healthy people or the unvaxxed. Well, early on, there was no such thing as vaxxed or unvaxxed early on because there was no vaccine. But like I said, this constant playing political games and divisiveness while, these people are succumb to the disease. And like I say, whatever the reason, or even if it's legit as to whether they've died from the disease or just with the disease, once again, this is all unfolding in real time. But at the very least, it's good to see that it's now not just a blanket thing where you can just target the unvaccinated and remove them from their jobs. Now, even if these people get their job back, I would just say this, and the government's probably relying on this. Oh, if we give them their jobs back, they won't sue or challenge us in court. I would suggest, if you have means at your disposal, economic means at your disposal, even if you got your job back, if you were fired for these ridiculous reasons, especially if you work for the government anyway, right? Yeah, you want to challenge, you want to sue them and keep going. Doesn't matter what, you got to do it, because at the end of the day, we have to set a precedent to show this is not allowed, this is illegal, this is unconstitutional, and never again. That, to me, is the most important thing that needs to take place. Great concern among nursing home operators, says association CEO. So yes, I mean, of course, people are going to be concerned, but why would you be overly concerned with the unvaccinated who, before they were fired, were there? Nobody seemed to care, or before there was even a vaccine or anything, right? They were there helping and protecting the vulnerable. So why target them specifically when we know with real 100% proof and evidence that both the vaccinated and unvaccinated, or unprotected, depending on how they want to term that now, could potentially get and spread the virus. So stop playing these games that are divisive, and let's show some unity behind actual freedom and personal responsibility. Because that's the thing with freedom, folks, is personal responsibility is basically, it's baked into freedom. Freedom comes with personal responsibility. You can't have one without the other. Simple as that. Anyways, let me move on here. What's the next one we got? Like I say, lots. So I think that was probably, was that the last one for COVID? No, one more, folks. Sorry, folks. One more. There's so much deception, so much misinformation, but I'm going to cover it. So what we know so far about getting COVID-19 twice in the age of Omicron is the headline in this one. Data in Canada is limited, but reinfection risk is higher with Omicron, experts say. Report by Stephanie Dubois, April 9th, 2022. Once again, all these will be, actually, I already have them linked. I was way proactive for this stream. They're already linked down there. So actually, if you want to even just go down in the description right now, find them, they should be there. Anyways, I had a specific spot here that I wanted to cover. Like I said, I don't want to bore you folks with too much reading of this stuff. I know some people, they kind of get irate over it. But anyway, so the strength of immune response will partially depend on a person's, like I say, this is another example. The reason why I highlighted this is, if this is the kind of information that was presented and put forward early on, once again, a lot of that hype and fear, a lot of these mandates, a lot of these restrictions imposed on us never will come to fruition in the first place. If this kind of common sense, or at least seemingly common sense perspective was actually offered, right? The strength of immune responses will partially depend on a person's age and overall health. Yeah. big time. Would have been nice if they were out there, repeating that line over and over and over 1,000 times rather than you got to be scared of the unvaccinated, right? Or the unvaccinated. The very old, the very young, and immunocompromised will have weakened responses, for example. Well, first of all, who are the very young? Because we're not seeing that. So that's not even the case. Maybe in some other areas, but as it pertains to COVID, where's that? It's not even in the numbers of any government database, right? Where the young people are succumbing in any substantial numbers. Even the old people, right? Now, their numbers are much, much higher, but of course, it would be the same whether it's the cold or flu, that they would be succumbing, to much larger degree than anyone else. I mean, that's just reality 101. But once again, and immunocompromised who have weakened responses, for example. So once again, those are the people that we needed to concern about. Now, even if earlier on we didn't know how it was going to affect young kids, then yes, the very old, the very young, and the immunocompromised, right? Those are vulnerable. Yep, those are the people we should be protecting. Matter of fact, when you're going to have quarantines or whatever back earlier on, right? No, it should have been protect the vulnerable, isolate them, but leave the rest of us the hell alone. I don't need you to protect me for me. I make my own decisions as an adult. But yes, the vulnerable people should be protected. That's the way it should have been played out, right? But that wasn't the way it played out. And why? Because of the hyped up fear and rhetoric espoused by these hacks in the media who are now turning around and changing their story and their tune. That's why fourth doses are now being rolled out to the more vulnerable population across the country. Are you sure that fourth dose is going to help them? Or is it just going to give them a little temporary, which is what we actually know now, it'll give them, what was the study? 10%. Basically, it'll give them a little bit of protection, but it'll wane real quickly. And in short order, you'll have no more protection. But what you will have done is used 4 doses of the same vaccine, because there is no new vaccine for the new variants. It's just the original vaccine in different levels or dosages, right? So use the proper words, right? So really, you've been given the same one that's proven to be lesser and lesser effective each time you're doing it. So, but really all you're doing is you're training that body to not be able to be robust enough to actually do anything properly on its own, but just to rely on these. I don't know. Once again, I'm not an epidemiologist or any of that stuff or immunologist. I got to tell you, I just intuitively think it's just a wrong approach, unless you just got a whole lot of vaccines. You just need to get rid of them because they're all bought and paid for. No point in sitting wasting in the warehouses. I don't know. Once again, I'm just speculating as to the motives, and I could speculate to even much, much worse motives, but I don't do that, folks. I know a lot of people like doing that, right? But because there's some things I could say as to why are you pushing 4th doses on the very old and the immunocompromised? I mean, some of them it might benefit, some of them might do the exact opposite. I don't know. But some cooler heads better start thinking, right? Rather than just relying on, well, we got a whole bunch of doses of this vaccine. Let's just try that again. Insanity, doing the same thing over. Anyways, folks, crazy. Yeah, that's the last one. So yeah, that's the last one for the COVID. So you can breathe a sigh and release. We're done for COVID for today, and hopefully for a while. Yeah, there's definitely bigger fish to fry out there on the old landscape. A lot of stuff taking place today. Anyways, let me scroll back into the chat here. Actually, let me go over and see if I can see comments. Just give me one sec, folks. I'm going to open up my Odyssey. See if I can see any comments from over there, because I know I don't get all of my comments. No, it's not opening. Why is that not opening? That's weird. Does everything look good out there, folks? For some reason I'm having an issue here. I shouldn't be. Well, that's odd. Okay, let me try this instead then. Let me try Rumble. We'll give Rumble a shot. Actually, I know another way I can do that. Is there any? No, there's actually no comments at all. I don't see over there on the old Rumble. Might have to put that on. No, there's actually. Oh, there we go. You did. Comments at all. Oh, I didn't. Okay. So no, actually, I don't even see my original message that I sent over there on Rumble. There's probably nobody on the stream. I don't know. I guess there's not that many people that like Rumble for some reason. I don't see. Well, I got 63 subscribers. Actually, I guess I did gain. I was actually at 49. So I guess I gained 14 since yesterday. I guess not the end of the world. Actually, it's showing 16 views. Thanks for joining the stream. So I will put something over there because maybe some people are watching it, but on my end, thanks for joining the stream. My end, I'm not seeing anything. Anyways, like I say, that's good. Good to know that at least there's 16 views over there. Not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but something nonetheless. Anyways, going to scroll down and see what you guys are doing here. Okay. All right. Oh, text late. I had the Kami 19. I had one runny nostril for about 8 hours. Wow. Ugh. The woo flu, as they call it. Or was it? No, that was Trump, right? Trump. The woo flu. Who I said Trump. YouTube's going to cut down. No, just kidding. Yeah, sorry. My point was none of this crap would be going on if our people actually stood up. Oh, yeah. Well, they're 100%. Yeah, right with you. Right there with you, Trevor. I 100% agree. Unfortunately, this is the problem. Sadly, and it's hard to, that's the thing. I don't like to make these blanket statements. It's really hard to talk about these things because you try to use like generalized statements, but at the same time, I'm not comfortable with using generalized statements. I mean, I will just say this. The culture in this country has shifted. I'm sure there were authoritarian tendencies. I know there were authoritarian tendencies in this country in the past, for sure. We know that. There's enough historic examples that say, yeah, it's authoritarianism or creeping tyranny. That's not new. It is not new at all. But does it seem like at least a portion of this country or a portion of the cultures who represent, because this is a multicultural country, right? Who represent this country do seem to be more. What was that? Oh, ladybug. Do seem to be more comfortable with collectivism or a light touch type of authoritarianism. Not full on. I'm sure that's probably why they don't choose to live in certain other geographical areas or countries. Maybe they don't like full on tyranny, but a little bit, especially think about some people. If you and your family or your history is coming from countries who are even more authoritarian, it's all about perspective at the end of the day. Well, put it this way, if you escaped a fully totalitarian regime, right? And I mean hardcore, which they do exist in this world, right? If you come to country, I mean, this is pretty tyrannical for someone like myself that's used to freedom, right? But to them, it's like it's a step up in terms of freedom because their former country or place of origin was even worse than the country now. That is definitely something that I think probably plays a role. Just me speculating here, but these seems like it could make sense, right? Okay. I can see and hear you. Okay. What's this one here? Patriot Kaz. What's going on, Patriot Kaz? The wisdom of liberty should be explained to the young. I don't think millennial generation understand. You're right. As the large cohort of them, for sure. But we're trying our best to do that. And I think more and more of them are coming around. Now, probably they'll start to come around even more, right? Because economics, and they're seeing it there. It's the thing, the young people, if only the young people would come to realize like all these socialist endeavors, like if you're a young person today, especially if you're a millennial or a Gen Zer, right? And you're seeing all these socialist things that the Canadian government, the liberals are putting on the table, free this, free that. It's like, if you were just wise enough, if they were just summoning their life or summoning, in some of the things like they watch, movie, music, television, if they were being properly informed, they actually, all these things that you think you're getting for free, you're going to pay for through your nose. And not only are you going to be paying for the things, these entitlements that you want, but you're going to be paying for all the entitlements that prior generations, right? Because the debts and deficit, look at them at that ridiculously sky high levels, right? I mean, Canada is like basically, well, US too, but like basically a basket case when you combine, federal debts, provincial debts, and personal debts. What are we into the hundreds of percentage points, right? In terms of, so you bring in $1, you're spending like $3 or $3.50. When the old people, right, are all dying off and on, or even if they're not dying off, let's say all the boomers and they're already part way there going into retirement. Well, they're not the ones going to be paying all these taxes, like income taxes, right, to pay for all this stuff because they're no longer earning an income and their pensions aren't taxed at the same rate as your income. So it's you young people. It's your future on the line. But once again, you're going to pay. So the Trudeau Liberals and even the Conservatives before them, or the NDP, all these established figures, like here's $1. Meanwhile, like I say, they've stolen $10 out of your pockets. Like, here, I'm going to give you $1. It's like, well, that's nice of you, but I'd like to have that other 9 back. Like $1. Well, thanks for the tip. Actually, typically a tip would be like 15% at least. So you don't even get tip levels in terms of what you get back, right? But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I agree with you, Patriot. All right, moving on to the next one. So this one here, I don't know if you folks heard about this one. Yeah, just terrible. Just terrible. But I mean, what do we expect? What do we expect? They investigated themselves and they found, actually, they didn't even really get into the investigation. He's like, nah, not even worth investigating. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So here we go, folks. This was obviously as it pertains to that woman, and there was a man too. I know there's someone on Twitter, actually, I was talking about this stuff, and it was actually a female that had replied and said, well, what happened to the man? Because it's true. It's true, right? There were 2 people, with the trampling or whatever, when the horses were, going through the crowds there, and there were 2 people that, whether you want to call it trampled, got knocked over, or whatever the heck, right? Whatever. There were horses, and all of a sudden there were people on the ground. And one of them was a lady on a mobility scooter. The other was a guy. But just like when the lady said, well, what happened to the guy? What about him? I actually made me think to myself, and my reply to her was like, he's just a man. Nobody cares. And in reality, I might even be guilty of that myself right now because I've been talking with this woman just like the rest of us. But I think that's for us men, that's our male chauvinism or our whatever. I don't know what you want to call it, right? He's like, we got to help the ladies. But yeah, it's true. There was a guy there too. But once again, who cares? Especially if he was a white, middle-aged man. Who cares, right? Well, I do, but you get the point. A lot of people don't. Because the media portrays the typical white, middle-aged man as, oh, he's just a bad, bad person, right? Anyway, so the injury from police, this CBC article, Ottawa, April 4th is when it was reported. Don't even have it. This was the one, like I say, no contributor. Typical, you usually have the contributor, so you know who the hell the one is that's at least misrepresenting facts. But nope, none of that at all. Just CBC News. Injury from police horse during COVID protest. Too minor to investigate. So even if it's a minor injury, it's not worth investigating. No, not at all, SIU said. Police watchdog requires a serious injury to invoke mandate to investigate. So well, there you go. Why bother? Ontario's police watchdog has closed its investigation into an interaction between a police horse and a woman during the convoy protest in Ottawa because her injury was not serious enough to fall under the organization's jurisdiction. So no denial that it happened. Well, I guess there's that at least, right? Yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time with this article because you know what it's going to be, just to playing it down. Whatever. It's typical CBC stuff, right? But yeah, not even worth investigating. Right? CBC. What an organization. Why do they hate freedom so much? Well, they don't hate them for freedom for themselves. They just hate freedom for you or I. That's the truth of the matter is. Okay, so here's another one there, folks. So this one's another CBC. Listen to senators overwhelmed by emails, calls pushing conspiracy theories about basic income legislation. So It's a conspiracy theory, right? Always, right? They always call everything conspiracy theory, right? Because that's what they do. That's their way of making sure all their loyal readers like, oh, I guess I don't need to pay attention to this stuff, right? Red Chamber grappling with a flood of messages claiming basic income is a plot by a shadowy global elite. This report by John Paul Tasker. I mean, this guy, like, he is a CBC establishment figure if I've ever seen one. Anyways, this was reported March 31st. Members of the Red Chamber have been hit by a wave of questionable correspondence from Canadians convinced that a pending Senate bill would take away their pensions and lead to some sort of totalitarian world government. Tens of thousands. This is nice to hear, though. Tens of thousands of calls. That's impressive. Emails and handwritten letters urging senators to oppose Bill S-233. So they're admitting there's an actual Bill 233. And I'm sure you folks seen me shared in past live streams. It is a legit, and it is all about a universal basic income. Has fled into the Red Chamber. The emails, many of them based on outlandish conspiracy theories, have at times overloaded the Senate services, bringing the normal workflow to a grinding halt. Bill S-233 calls for the creation of a national framework to allow the federal government to begin studying a guaranteed livable basic income program in Canada. If passed, the one-page bill, which was introduced by Ontario Senator Kim Pate, would not establish a basic income program in Canada. It would simply compel the Department of Finance to study the concept and report its findings. Under parliamentary rules, a senator cannot propose any new spending in tax or tax increases through a Senate public bill like S-233. More of a bills of this sort and non-government legislation more generally rarely pass through both houses of the parliament into law. The federal Liberal government has also been cool to the idea of a basic income program. Yeah, bullshit. That's the kind of rhetoric they might espouse, one or a few times. But anyways, the fact here's what it is. It's just like that other APP, that fact check was about, over there in Europe. Well, it's no different here. It's a real thing. It's just that all their conspiracy theories are saying that this is going to do because they've been, probably watching the real World Economic Forum thing, the real Davos elites, the real Klaus Schwab stuff, the Great Reset, the constant parroting and talking about the New World Order by these central planning figures, right? These shadowy figures that do actually really exist, right? And anyone can find them. Anyone can see it. Just search on the internet. Just go to the World Economic Forum yourself, right? It's all there. It's all there. And it's blatantly obvious. But they're going to say, oh, no, it's fake because this is just a bill to study about implementing the universal basic income. But if you're putting forward a bill about studying, or about a study about implementing universal basic income. I mean, think about it. Universal basic. That's full-on socialism at that point, folks, right? We're all slaves to the state if we all get our income from the state. You're literally a slave of the state at that point. And universal means all of us. Right? But the hilarious part of this is they're pretending. I mean, if you've been paying attention to my channel for a long time, I've reported on this multiple times. So that's their intention. But yes, of course, they got to go through some kind of process, right? And pretend that they're doing these things in terms of study. So this bill, this S-233, might not be what they use the exact bill they use to implement the universal basic income. This is just their first foray or dipping their toes in the water for it. But it's all about creating a basic income. So it's a real thing. It's a genuinely real thing, but that's the thing of the established media. They'd rather gaslight you, tell you, no, you didn't see what you seen. No, you didn't hear what you hear. They're constantly trying to manipulate the facts and distort reality. Just because they don't like the sound of the narrative. And the fact that they're willing to go this far to try to cover the tracks shows you that even they know how terribly destructive full-on socialism would be in this country, right? Even they know that, which is why they're constantly out there trying to do damage control and playing politics with these initiatives. So anyways, like I said, I'm not going to waste much time, but look at that. Oh, it's conspiracy theory, but it's a conspiracy theory, but it's not. It's reality, but they're just finding, like I say, they're finding that word like gross. No, it's not, we're not bringing in universal basic income. No, this is just the first part where we're going to study it and then we'll bring it in later. Oh, no, did I say that? Come on. Insanity. Insane in the membrane. Oh, let me bring this up too, because it's so funny because there's that. And then because this I share these things so that you can use this for. I just think if you're showing someone, well, you probably want to have another article that's not CBC to show the person like, yeah, well, here, look. So here's another one. This one's out of True North. Opposition warns against bankrupting 85 billion guaranteed income plan. This is reported by Cosmin de Souza, April 2nd, 2022. A conservative MP is blasting a basic income plan, making its way through the Senate, saying it's a disaster in the making for the Canadian economy. If passed, Bill S-233, otherwise known as an act to develop a national framework for a guaranteed livable basic income, would task the Minister of Finance with creating a national framework to give a guaranteed basic livable income to people over the age of 17, temporary workers, permanent residents, and refugee claimants. Whoa, folks. So there, like I say, so I guess you would have to read the wording in the bill, which obviously this MP is a member, right, would be privy to have this information. And he's doing exact quotes, right? He's quoting here. So look at this. Frame with creating to give a guarantee. So, and he's even admitted, look, would task the Minister of Finance with creating a national framework. So he's not even saying that he's using 233 to implement. He's even admitted it's to create a national framework to give a guaranteed basic livable income to the people. But think about it. So anyone over 17, including temporary foreign workers, so people not even from our country. So now you're not just going to throw out the money, steal from some productive Canadians to pay for the inept, the lazy, or the parasitical class in this country, but now even people that they're not even part of your country. Temporary workers, permanent residents, and refugee claimants. So yeah, you don't even have to be a Canadian citizen. Just, yeah, if you got a pulse and you even step foot in this country, here you go. There you go. And who's paying for this? Once again, well, based on the way demographics, age, and how that works, all the young people. That's who's going to pay for it. Because the old people will be dead, the young people will still be here. So who do you think is going to pay for it? Yep. So all the young people think, oh, I like me some universal basic income. Well, that's the lazy, the inept, right? The parasitical types, the ones that probably want to still live in their mummy's basement until they die. But I'm pretty sure there's quite a few other Canadians who like to be independent, out on their own, doing their own thing. And yeah, while you're trying to do that, being independent and trying to, go up against the behemoth of inflation and big government imposing themselves on you so many ways economically, yeah, well, there's this that you're going to have to contend with too. Wow, the young people, like I say, the day of revolt is going to come. It's just when it comes is when these young people finally wake up to the hellscape that they're going to be managing, as the old people move off in retirement. Yeah, it's not going to work out good for those folks. The framework must include measures to determine what constitutes a livable basic income for each region in Canada, taking into account the goods and services that are necessary to ensure that individuals can lead a dignified and healthy life, as well as the cost of those goods and services in accessible markets, law reads. So once again, look at this. So it goes from Canada. Fundamental rights are negative. You don't have any positive rights. You don't have a right to a doctor. That means if you have a right to a doctor, that means the government can force a doctor to provide a service for you against the will. That's using force. No, the only rights you have is to not have other people use force, violence, or theft, right, towards you. That's what a proper right is. A proper right is a negative right. There's no actions involved. These positive rights they're not a right at all. They would be like a privilege, an entitlement, very authoritarian, very tyrannical ones where, yeah, you can force people, right? So you want to have whatever these vague, the individuals can lead a dignified and healthy life. What does that mean? Well, think about how imaginative people could use to describe what they would require to have a dignified and healthy life, right? Well, dignified, should we all? I mean, to be equity is like, no, we shouldn't have such thing as people driving, Hyundais, and we should all be driving Mercedes and Beamers and Lamborghinis and stuff like that, because that would put us all on equal keel. What does that mean? Like I say, what does that mean? It's so vague, right? for a reason. Bill S-233 was introduced to the Senate on December 16th by Trudeau-appointed Senator Kim Pate and is currently on its second reading. It has yet to reach the House of Commons. Conservative MP for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies, Bob Zimmer, has called the law part of the federal government's bankrupting economic policy. Anyways, folks, so like I say, this is just another a reference point that you can use. But yeah, it's a reality. And of course, I'll just throw this on here too, because this is all kind of combined. This is a great article. I won't read it in its entirety. It's like I said, I'm just going to put it up here because it is a good article. Definitely recommended. So this is a common sense. It's a Substack. It's actually Barry Weiss. Not sure if you're familiar who she is on her Substack. And the contributor to it is David Sachs. And listen to this, folks. Headline: A social credit system arrives in Canada. Now, if you're not familiar with who Barry Weiss is, she's that woman that was working, that was a longtime figure down at the New York Times. And just like that, was it Tara Henley here in Canada, that was the insider for the CBC. They're tired of the woke culture in these organizations, these institutions, and have come out and basically been telling us, what these people are doing and why they chose to leave their very cozy positions at these behemoth establishment organizations to start informing us on what's going on. And once again, this is really important stuff. So Justin Trudeau just created a cast of economical untouchables. Can we stop this dystopian policy from taking hold in America? So like I say, this reported by David Sachs. Just read a little bit there for you, folks. Last summer, I warned readers of Common Sense that financial deplatforming would be the next wave of online censorship. Big tech companies like PayPal were already working with left-wing groups like the ADL and SPCL to define lists of individuals and groups who should be denied service. As more and more similarly minded tech companies followed suit, as happened with social media censorship, these deplorables would be deplatformed, debanked, and eventually denied access to the modern economy altogether as punishment for their unacceptable views. So there you go, folks. Without any, legislation that says there's an actual social credit system in this country, so far there hasn't been any social credit system legislation passed. But if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and the culture is shifting towards being that particular duck, well, it's a duck, folks. It's a duck, right? That prediction has become reality. What I could not have anticipated is that it would occur first in our mild-mannered neighbor to the north, in government itself directing the reprisals. It remains to be seen whether Canada will be a bellwether for the U.S., but anyone who cares about the future of America as a place where citizens are free to protest their government needs to understand what has just occurred and work to stop it from taking root here. For the past 3 weeks, thousands of truckers have gathered in Ottawa and along the Canada-American border to protest of code restrictions and mandates. Rather than engage with them or listen to their concerns, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau first denounced them as having unacceptable views. Then he demonized them as white supremacists, racists, and swastika wavers. And that's another thing too. When the media's out there saying, how the truckers were down there for 3 weeks, right? First of all, 3 weeks isn't really that long of a time, but the only reason why they were there for that long a time was, once again, because Trudeau wouldn't even take the time to meet him, the fucking coward, whether he had COVID or not, once again. But the guy chose, I believe it was probably bullshit excuse, but whatever, even if he got it, it doesn't take that long to go. But the fact that he chose, or what, he couldn't even sit down and have a video conference, there's ways, or send a representative on his behalf. Like I say, there are ways to try to figure out a meeting of the minds to try to figure out how to solve that particular problem, that particular issue, right? Which obviously was a major issue because it caused people from all over this country. We've all seen the videos and pictures, right? Of all people, like there are a tremendous amount of Canadians who were in support of that protest. And like I say, the fact that Trudeau was unwilling to even listen to these people's grievances and hear them out at all is the reason why it lasted as long as it did. But anyways, yeah, let me just read on a little bit more. On Monday, the rhetoric turned into action when Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act. This henceforth unusual 1988 law gives the government virtually unlimited power for 30 days to deal with a crisis. Invoking the law under the present circumstances would require the threat or use of serious violence, yet the vast majority of protesters have been entirely peaceful, playing we are the world and waving maple leaf flags. Indeed, the government had made little attempt to justify the need for emergency powers beyond Trudeau's frequent bemoaning of the truckers' alleged hateful rhetoric. His public safety minister, Marco Mendocino, stated that such extraordinary measures were necessary due to intimidation, harassment, and expressions of hate. Perhaps he doesn't realize that none of these are listed in the law as valid reasons to invoke it, right? Anyways, folks, this just continues on, like I say, but rather than read it entirely and for expediency, because I do have a lot of stuff to cover in this stream, I'll just make sure that it's linked in the description of the stream. And I'm just going to check here real quick and see how you folks are doing over there on the comment side of things. Just one sec here. Where are we at here? Okay. Okay, now we're down here. Sounds like a conspiracy fact to me. I know. UBI is a dumb idea. It makes more sense to just lower taxes. Exactly, right? It's like, yeah, we're going to steal from this wallet, and then I'm going to give you, yeah, just stop stealing, right? Really simple. And a matter of fact, that's the thing. It would save a whole lot of bureaucracy and a whole lot of public sector jobs. Oh, there's the problem, right? No, UBI grows and blows the public sector, the bureaucracy, which is why they love it, right? It's more jobs, more government hacks, where you don't have to worry about silly things like market fundamentals or being fiscally responsible or not imposing too much costs, right? That may destroy your business model. No, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff because government can just force people to pay or just print money and force the future people to pay, right? Through inflation or intergenerational theft. Here, Auntie Woke's got some information. Bilderberg's, World Economic Forum, Open Society Foundation. Isn't that Gates, right? I think. Clinton Foundation, or no, that's Soros one, right? I think, whatever. Clinton Foundation, Vanguard, BlackRock, some of the big evil globalist groups, name a few. Yep, always good to drop a few names. What? UBI could work. There needs to still be incentive to work, and there needs to be a harsher prison sentence so that people can't supplement UBI with crime. UBI? You support UBI? That is so weird. Why would you support universal basic income? Well, this is, like I say, even among people who are watching a libertarian stream. So, I don't know. Like I say, how do we get out from under this? Well, that's at the end of the day what I think is politics. I just don't think it's going to be the proper vessel. Although, give her a shot if you want. I'm even myself. I'm like not leaving anything off the table at this point, but my strategy for the last few years in particular has been just, like I say, and a lot of the other great minds out there are basically saying and doing the same thing. So I think I'm on the right track. There's just build alongside and do everything you can to escape and avoid having to deal with this. So like the people that want UBI, if I can get to the point where I can just use alternative currencies rather than the Canadian dollar, well, they can enslave each other as much as they want. I'll just be over here. All right. You guys do your thing. I'll be over here and none of you will be economically enslaving me. I assure you of that. I'm going to work diligently for the rest of my life, assuring that no matter what they want to do or how many people support these initiatives, that, you're not going to economically enslave me because, I like associating and align myself with innovators, the entrepreneurs, the people who care about freedom and liberty because, man, they've got great ideas and methods and ways to get out from underneath this stuff. So, like I say, the people who want to sustain that stuff or go with it, let them do it. Let them do it. Well, I mean, it's not like we have any choice, right? But just like I say, just move outside the system and let that system collapse down around them. Like if Auntie Woken, nothing against you, Auntie, because I know you're typically a good person and you usually contribute. But I mean, if you support UBI, then and you get into supporting that and you become part of that, well, it won't take long before you'll become back around. Yeah, Bennett, you were right, man. I don't want nothing to do with this. I really don't. But as with even myself, I've had to learn the hard way at times. Actually, best lessons I've ever learned came through the old school of hard knocks, to be honest with you. UBI is full-blown communism. We know how that ends. Yeah, that's the thing, Stuart. Actually, I'm with you there, but and thanks for joining the stream there, by the way, Stuart. But the thing is now, and I even use those terms too, but like communism, socialism, right? Fascism. But in reality, this new way of doing things, like the third way, I mean, there's areas where they'll tweak that stuff where it's not going to be exactly or a replica of like the communism of the past or the socialism of the past. So to me, at the end of the day, when people get into it, like if you get to the point where you're now arguing over whether these central planners who are dictating, controlling like basically every aspect of your social and economic lives, like whether you want to call it socialism or communism or fascism, to me, it's like, well, let's step away from those labels entirely because at the end of the day, they're all just a representation of authoritarian collectivism. So that's the thing. If you use the proper term and descriptor, it fits all of these. Authoritarian collectivism properly fits all of these things, right? So I just use that now for especially if I'm having like a really in-depth discussion with someone where I want to have clarity of mind, like clarity of language to give people clarity of mind. I just say authoritarian collectivism, right? Because that actually covers all of them, covers them all, right? Even our modern form of democracy, right? Authoritarian collectivism. Because they're constantly saying how they got to sacrifice the individual. There's no respect or placing the individual at the core of society anymore. So once again, it's authoritarian collectivism. But anyways, thanks. Like I say, and this is just me, just a little pushback, a little friendly. Nothing to it here, folks. Nothing to it. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of those ventures. Now, I have heard people say, like you could become that from the Milton Friedman school of thought, which kind of makes sense on the surface. Like if you got rid of every other social program in Canada and replaced it with just a one social program. I'm saying I don't want any of them, but I have heard the argument where that could possibly make sense. But once again, economically, you might be able to see where for a short time frame or something where the math might add up where let's say it'd be cheaper, let's say to have UBI than all these other socialist programs. Let's say that was a reality. But the point of UBI, as far as I'm concerned, is once again, it places all on that or hastens that pace to the race to the bottom. And it definitely will disincentivize people. I mean, come on. How could it not disincentivize you? I mean, I know welfare cases right now in New Brunswick. And the reason why I don't want to become a welfare case myself is at least, I'm not a fan of welfare, but at least the welfare system in this country, well, that's the thing. This is the discrepancy is if you have a lot of kids, actually can be quite beneficial. But if you're like, a single person or even just a couple, welfare is not going to help you much. You're not going to get through life. But a universal basic income, like where you have a floor where you actually can get by in life, pay for all the things that you need or you consume and your entertainment, all that stuff. Well, that would definitely have a much more profound effect on the incentive of people to continue working. As far as I'm concerned, anyways, I would suspect. So let's just continue on here, folks. Like I say, I'm trying to get through some of these comments. Some of these articles. Got a few more here. Share screen. Now, this one is, it's a great article, actually, from True North once again. Andrew Lawton did this one. Shout out to Andrew. The Chinification of Canada. This was done on April 1st, 2022. And no, it wasn't an April Fool's joke. But the last 2 years, the federal government has vastly expanded their power in the name of public health. So anyways, like I said, I definitely recommend you check this out because it's basically talking about and describing how basically along the same lines of the China or the social credit system come in this country is, like I said, there has not been any official legislation that says, there's going to be reintroducing, bill, I don't know what, C-20, whatever, the social credit system act. Like they're not going to name it that, right? But if it ends up being here by another name or just the culture pivots towards that, like I say, even in the absence of legislation, well, if you're living in a prison that's got real bars, even if you don't call it a prison, well, it's still somewhere that's holding you and containing you, and there's bars preventing you from being able to move. So it still sucks either way, as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Yeah, this basically going along the same lines, and like the words they use, the rhetoric. See, like I say, they don't even the established media don't like to use socialism and communism or fascism anymore, right? Or corporatism. They're constantly retweaking the narrative and the words to once again misdirect and mislead people from what's actually taking place. So Freeland makes a modern supply side bet on Canada's future economic growth. Thanks to Janet Yellen, the federal Liberals now have a fiscal philosophy to call their own. And look at Aaron Wary. Like, oh man, that guy's he is like such a CBC inside. Like, he'll just pair anything the Liberals. I don't know, man. I don't know who it's like between him and Rosie Barton. I don't know who's more earnest about regurgitating Liberal talking points. I don't know. There's quite a few of them. Anyway. Presenting her second budget to the House of Commons on Thursday, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland said that now is not the time for us to focus with smart investments and a clarity of purpose. Oh, now is the time for us to focus with smart investments and clarity on purpose on growing our economy and making life more affordable for Canadians. Aren't you feeling all that affordability that since the Liberals been doing all this stuff? Man, I'm feeling like so much richer now. No, it's actually the exact opposite. But once again, rhetoric, right? I prefer reality, but these folks like the rhetoric. Well, they're experiencing it much different than you are. I are. Nearly everyone in Ottawa would agree with those broad goals. As ever, the real debate on nearly everyone, I'm sure they would. In central planning, collectivism central. As Freeland spoke interim. So now they're just going to go on about what the opponent said. Other than those elements, which will matter, because benefits from them. Yeah, other than those elements, which will matter a lot to the Canadians who benefit from them. Yeah, sure. Like I say, if you're a benefactor of the proceeds of theft, fuck, that's great. But if you're the ones on the other side of that theft, it's really shitty for you. But this is the thing: CBC folks are always on the side of the benefactors of theft and wealth and income redistribution. So their perspective, like I say, is going to be much, much different than you or I. Oh my goodness. Would have tabled with a couple of orange post-it notes affixed. The deficit is projected to decline steadily. Wait a minute, where did that go? Oh yeah, to 8.4 billion in 2027, which would be the smallest deficit these Liberals have run. But that's a projection for the 5 fucking years out. They can't even project what the hell's going to happen tomorrow. Never mind 5 years out. So, it's going to be all the way down to 8 billion. But like, why are you pointing out what it's going to down to in 2027? But where's the numbers for how about 2026? How about 2025? How about 2024? How about 2023? Oh, we're just going to avoid that, are we? Oh, are we? I guess that doesn't mean anything. I'm up here because I'm looking. Actually, no, there wasn't nothing there. I'm looking for the numbers. Nope. The first number we're seeing, biggest demand. Well, we're seeing that, what the NDP, they want, this much billion for this. Like I say, they love spending other people's money. They want this. But once again, there's nothing in terms of how much the deficit's going to be. Not yet, anyways, for 2022 or for 2023 even. Like I say, they're moved all the way into 2027. I guess they don't want to shock your heart too hard. My God. Especially how the federal government has embraced, or at least borrowed, a new name for its own approach. Our strategy is what Janet Yellen, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, has recently dubbed modern supply side economics. Freeland said she got the boot. Powell is now the one that's doing this stuff, but I guess anyways. Powell, right? Isn't it Powell? It's a Powell that's the head of the Federal Reserve down there now. Freeland argued in the budget that what Yellen described in a speech in January is more or less what the Liberals have been trying to do for the last 6.5 years. But Yellen may have explained it a lot more straightforward and succinct manner than any Liberal has managed to date. As Yellen framed it, traditional supply side economics, the name given to the policy agendas of conservative figures like former American President Ronald Reagan and former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, seeks to expand the economy's potential output through aggressive deregulation paired with tax cuts designed to promote private capital investment. Modern, right, the new one, Modern supply side economics, in contrast, she continued, prioritizes labor supply, human capital, public infrastructure, research and development, and investments in a sustainable environment, the Treasury Secretary said. Modern supply side economics seeks to spur economic growth by both boosting labor supply and raising productivity while reducing inequality, environmental damage. Oh, that's awful vague, right? What does this mean? Seeks to spur growth by boosting labor supply. Oh, mass immigration. Yeah. Keeping a whole lot of wages down, but increasing more money for government coffers by expanding the population. See, that's the thing, right? Mass immigration keeps his wages down and stagnant like they have been for people like myself in Gen X category for like 40 fucking years. Like ever since we started working, like there's been no wage increase or raise for us as it pertains to or contrast to the rate of inflation. But if you can bring in massive amount of immigration, like immigrants that we're seeing 400,000 getting close up to 500,000, 500,000 a year, look at all that extra money in the government coffers, right? Not good for you, but once again, it's all about perspective at the end of the day. Look, you're going to have all this extra money that they can steal from all these people and give to some people and take from some to give them more. So there's going to be more people to steal from. There's going to be more slaves on this plantation is what they're saying, right? And raising productivity. What does that mean? More robots? Put more people out of job? I don't even know what that means. How are you going to raise productivity? Because I'll tell you, socialism has never done that ever. While reducing inequality. How are you going to flatten that curve? How are you going to get to that kind of reduced inequality, right? How are you going to create that kind of equity? Like, how are you going to make incompetent, inept people who are economically illiterate as well off as though the entrepreneurs are very economically and financially driven and literate? How do you flatten that out? Okay. Well, you're obviously going to have to work really, really hard to try to, I don't know how you would even do that, make someone who doesn't even lack the tools, skills, or competence to raise themselves to the level of this one. So how would you change that paradigm? How could you equal that out? If you can't bring this person up to this level, well, there's only one way to get to a level playing field, right? So if there's someone down here, there's someone up here. The other way to get to a level playing field, look at that. Wait, I'm just trying to keep my hand so you can see. You just bring this one down, right? There, look at that. Equality. Look, we achieved equality. Oh, yeah, but in order to do that, you had to tear a whole lot of people down, right? Not a good thing as far as I'm concerned, especially if you're one of the people who are ambitious, goal-oriented, because that's the one they're looking to tear down, right? That's what all of these authoritarian collectivist endeavors do, is seek to harm the productive. That's what the parasites like. They want to take as much as they can, and then once they figured a way, so that's the thing. They no longer, they have the monetary system. They no longer have to worry about stealing from the corporate class. So let's just tear them all down. Or not the corporate class, the business class, right? The entrepreneurial types. And what was the last one? Oh, an environmental damage. Yeah. We know what that all means. We've heard enough rhetoric from the environmentalists and what that all means for the rest of us, right? Actually, in talking about that stuff, this will be a funny part. You'll find this funny. Actually, I'm so glad that, because this is perfect. Let me move over to this other article because you're going to get a kick out of this one. I know I did. I really enjoyed it's a laugh and a half. Check this out, folks. Check this out. You're going to like it, like I say. Let me just take a quick drink here. Hold on. Okay. So, another CBC article. This has to do with the budget. Politics. A budget under politics. Yeah. Well, it's not under economics. You see that. It's under politics, right? Yeah, for a reason. Government report acknowledges feminist federal budget benefits men more than women. This feminist budget introduced by Trudeau the feminist, Freeland the feminist, all these feminist liberals, they put forth this budget that's going to benefit men more than women. What's going on with that? Right? No matter which side of the coin you're of the political divide you're on, that's like, well, that's not good. But wait till we get down. And let me show you what they deem as what's benefiting men so greatly in comparison and contrast to women in the budget. Finance Minister Freeland defends the budget, citing $30 billion for childcare. So this reported by Joseph Tunney. Oh, that's right, too. April 9th, 2022. Joseph Tunney. That was another one too. Yeah, when I shared this on Twitter. There's a Catherine Tunney. I think she's a contributor to CBC. Any relation? Very well could be, right? Anyways, the Liberal government has made gender equality a top priority, but its latest federal budget benefits men more than women because many of its spending initiatives target male-dominated sectors. That's right. I'll get to the good part soon. Just hold on. Hold on. A statement in Impact's reports on gender and diversity that accompany the budget says nearly half of the budget measures, 44%, are expected to benefit women and men in equal proportions, while 42% are expected to directly or indirectly benefit men. Only a considerably smaller share of the budget measures, roughly 14%, will directly or indirectly benefit women. Right? This relative disparity reflects the fact that men are overrepresented in certain sectors benefiting from many of the climate and infrastructure related measures in the budget, the report read. Although these measures will ultimately benefit all Canadians, the workforce in these sectors are predominantly men, who in turn will indirectly benefit from the increased economic opportunities associated with these investments. So let me just read this last little bit. According to the report, the construction and clean technology sectors will benefit indirectly from the low carbon economy fund expansion, which will invest up to $2 billion in green projects. Similarly, the agricultural sector, farmers, another male-dominated industry, will benefit from the expansion of the agricultural clean technology program, which is meant to foster the changes required to achieve a low-carbon economy. So basically what this is saying, and I'm sure you folks have already got it now, is because, and it is true, folks, sorry, and if you're a woman, you know this in your personal life. Yes, it's us men that do all of the cocksucking, crazy, motherfucking hard work and shit. I've seen some women out there, but yeah, whether you're talking about the trucking industry, the construction industry, like welding, framing, plumbing, electric, all look, think about building a wind tower. It's the hilarious part. What it is, yeah, all these initiatives, like building wind towers, look, all the liberal elites and the NDP socialists and all the greenies, they'd be like, oh, I like the idea of having these big giant wind towers and things up there because it's so environmentally friendly, right? It's like, well, you ever seen the size of those fucking things? It requires a lot of welding, a lot of steel, a lot of mining, and yeah, all men. Well, not all men, but predominantly. So what it is, well, we want to shift to this economy that greatly benefits feminists and women, but sadly, none of them are the ones that are actually going to do all the work. So these men are all going to benefit. And once again, it's funny, like as if they're doing it as far as, let me just say, from the male perspective here, I just as soon be working, paving roads like I've done, right, or drive a truck as building a wind farm or installing solar panels somewhere or something like that. Like, it's a job. What the particular infrastructure we're working on as men, like if you're welding, a blade for, I don't know, a windmill, or you're welding a pipe for an oil pipeline, it's like you're welding metal. Which metal I'm working on? Six dozen one, half dozen of the other, right? But they're trying to pretend that because men, they're basically admitting that it's predominantly men who are doing all the real work out there. And that's just a reality that actually creates the world we live in, the physical, the tangible world that we all rely on. We know predominantly it's men that do those jobs. But to pretend that somehow just because every project that they want to undertake, it's going to actually have to come to fruition in the real world, to pretend that you're doing that for men's favor or somehow men are just, benefacting from your initiative and such. I mean, it's just so hilarious, right? It's so hilarious. So really, that's all it is at the end of the day. Why are men going to benefit? Because once again, it's mostly men who do all that physical hard work and labor and do the jobs that, let's just face it, I've got lots of women in my life. None of them want to do those kinds of jobs. And I understand why they don't, right? Just like there's a lot of things that women do that I don't want to do either. That's the beautiful thing about us as a species, is men are predominantly accustomed and tailored for specific kind of things, and women are too, right? Natural evolution, biology, right? That's just the reality, folks. And it's done for a reason. Same happens in nature, right? And sometimes it could even reverse for a specific reason, but nature decides that. No central planner, right? There's no group of authoritarian collectivists determining, in the animal kingdom of should it be the male hyenas doing the work or the female? None of that. Just whatever works out best, right? And in the world we live in and throughout the history, it works out best when men who are typically less risk averse than women, typically physically stronger, right? All those things and more all about things rather than people, right? All those contributing factors that make up a man are conducive with the kind of work we go into. That's why it's just natural. But once again, to pretend, let me just pull this off the screen here, folks, because I'm not going to read any more of it. But I mean, hilarious, right? Hilarious. It's, oh yeah, it's them damn men. They're going to benefit from our feminist budget. Well, because on our plantation, all the slaves we got here, unfortunately, most women want to work in some government job, typically, or something, or some position where they can get a paycheck or just sit behind a desk, or in hospitality, or I mean, we know why typically women predominantly have a majority representation or role in healthcare and childcare, of course, because that's women's wheelhouse. Women give birth. No men give birth. Don't fall for that nonsense. Men do not give birth even now. But women give birth, and they're predominantly the primary caregivers to children. And they were given the breast. They were given all the equipment and they even have the typically that nurturing mindset and mentality, which is conducive to being like that, right? So it's like I say, nature does a great job for us, but central planners don't like that. Central planners, like I say, they got a plantation. They're like, darn, I suppose they probably wish that women were the ones that were getting all these jobs. I'm sure they probably wish that, but you're never going to convince these women to go want to do male jobs. I mean, they've been trying this for how long have the establishment been trying to get women to start dominating in male fields, or at least get on par or parity, right? How many times have we heard that? That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But it doesn't mean they're not going to, manipulate, distort, and screw with our economy on a multitude of ways trying to do that. Anyways, let me just get down here to where are we at here now? Close that one. Yeah. Okay. Now we've covered. So what topics? So we've covered. Where are we at here? We've covered the COVID. Wait a minute. The crypto. We haven't really covered the crypto, have we? We're going to get to that one yet. We haven't even done the Charest. Holy jumping, lots of stuff that we got to cover yet. So let me get over here into the crypto then. Let's get to the crypto. Share screen. So now, I'm not sure if you folks are familiar with Peter Thiel, but he and Elon Musk were actually the co-founders of PayPal. A very early foray into an alternate payment system to challenge the behemoths, the establishment. Now they're both have moved on to bigger and better things, and unfortunately, PayPal, as we've seen in some of these early challengers to the status quo, Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, these alternative platforms, these social media platforms that were meant to challenge the status quo of the establishment and give us an alternative platform in place for our voices to gravitate to, or even sources for revenue and stuff. But we're seeing, like I say, PayPal and some of these other organizations have been taken over, just like the institutions in education. Think about it. A lot of these corporations, the big banks now, have all been taken over by it's that conveyor belt from university, the woke, right? The woke leftists, the progressives, right? The identity politics types. Like I say, they've been coming out of university and straight into these positions, which have taken all these social media giants that grew because they were a challenge to the status quo, and now they're basically trying to turn them into the new status quo, which is why now people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk have to move on and try to reinvent the wheel once again, apparently, because, well, hopefully they can figure something out. Well, that's the thing about blockchain. Nobody's going to be able to take that over. You can't decentralize that. So I guess this is the benefit now is these guys are going to work hard on something that's not going to be taken over by a bunch of authoritarian collectivists. So anyways, this is out of Fox News. Ooh, Fox News. Oh, it's a bad thing. I'm sharing something from Fox News. Peter Thiel, Bitcoin will never be controlled by government, unlike woke companies. And yeah, Peter Thiel actually fully identifies as a libertarian. He is a libertarian. And of course, you know Elon Musk is too. Thiel made the comment at the Bitcoin 2022 conference where he explained the difference between fiat money and cryptocurrency. PayPal and Palantir Technologies co-founder Peter Thiel said Thursday that Bitcoin will never be controlled by the government, unlike woke companies. Thiel made the comment at the Bitcoin 22 conference where he explained the difference between fiat or government-backed money and cryptocurrency. He threw a wad of $100 bills to someone in the first row of the audience to make his point. Even being in a stock, you're effectively being in something that's like a government-linked entity. Woke companies, are sort of quasi-controlled by the government in a way that Bitcoin never will be, he said. Well, once again, we know, like I've said so many times before, folks, because corporations, and that's how most people start their businesses these days as a corporation, and they are quasi branches of the government because a corporation, that term, is an act of legislation. Without that act of legislation from government, it's just a business, right? There's no way to socialize your losses on other people if you're just a business, a store, or a company. But if you're a corporation, and that's the thing, the libertarians of the world are coming around to realizing that no, we got to stop. We're all about business. We're not much about corporations. We're not about this cozy relationship between business and government, right? These entrepreneurs want independence, and they want independence for us as well. And because that's what works best. The market works best when they're not central planners heavily manipulating it. Anyways, so the tech investor opened his remarks with a video from 1999 in which he makes the claim that everyone in the middle class and the developing world would eventually have internet-enabled cell phones, an idea that seemed impossible to some at the time. You got to remember, this was back in 99. He went on to predict that access to bank accounts via cell phones would threaten authoritarian governments. Today, Thiel and other cryptocurrency investors argue that Bitcoin is the solution to such power because it is not controlled by anyone except those who own it. The real competition for Bitcoin is not Ethereum. That's a payment system. It's not even gold. It's something like the S&P 500. It's the stock market as a whole. That is the way Bitcoin trades every day, said Thiel, who made his name in part by being the first outside investor to Facebook. While it is always hard to envision the future of Bitcoin, Thiel continued he believes Bitcoin is the most honest and most efficient market in the world, calling it the canary in the coal mine that predicted record high inflation. Venture capitalists also listed CEO James Dimon, Warren Buffett, and Larry Fink as the enemies of Bitcoin, saying that they have an institutional bias against the world's most popular cryptocurrency. He likened Wall Street to geriatrics and cryptocurrency to youth. So yeah, Peter Thiel's definitely not a fan of the old establishment, right? And once again, Warren Buffett, man, like the Oracle of Omaha, not to put the man down, but he's knowledgeable in the fiat world in playing that game, right? But he's an old guy. He's not as knowledgeable at this stuff. So not saying nothing bad about necessarily about Warren Buffett per se. I'm sure he's made himself and a lot of other people rich and a lot of businesses. A lot of people work for that man. So I'm not saying, I know people get into this personality thing so heavily, right? But at the end of the day, what it is just these old people and these people that have made their wealth, through the fiat or in the fiat currency world. Yeah, they're scared of the alternative because that might see all of their built up wealth evaporate, right? Because that's the thing with wealth. It truly is speculative and in the eye of the beholder when you talk about the way the current monetary system and fiat currencies are working, right? Are they really worth what they say there? Not really. Not maybe if they're backed with the full force and might of the U.S. military, right? But if you don't have that anymore, or the status as world reserve currency, how much is an American dollar worth? That would be an interesting thing to find out on an actual market, in an actual market environment. we may very well get to find that at some point in time. Who knows? And I think if we get that point, though, folks, things are getting really bad. Anyways, I see, what are we at? An hour and 54 minutes. So I'm just going to tie it up, get a few more in here. I know been kind of going long, but I'm going to do it anyways. I do see that the stream's kind of got quite low in the amount of viewership, but I'm just going to power on through her anyways. For those of you who do want to hear. Okay, where are we at? Let's bring this one up. So this is something. Now, I thought it was going to be Bill C-11, and Bill C-11 might still very well be a thing, but my goodness. The central planners, the Trudeau Liberals are busy out there. They're introducing so many bills that affect our rights and freedoms that it's hard to keep on top of all. Anyways, this is Michael Geist is his website. Matter of fact, if you follow him on Twitter, he's been all about like freedom of speech, especially online. He's a great advocate for freedom of speech online in Canada. Anyways, so this is a headline: just how extreme is Bill C-18? It mandates payments for merely facilitating access to news. So this is reported April 7, 2022. Bill C-18, the Online News Act, is less than 48 hours old, but the more you examine the bill, the worse it gets. My previous post unpacked why the general policy is bad for press independence and competition, as well as why the bill features a misguided attempt to require payments for links. Yet the bill requires an even deeper look, since it goes far beyond compensating journalists when they use their content, as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said yesterday in the House of Commons, or even linking to news articles. Rather, the bill requires compensation for facilitating access to news in any way, in any amount. So once again, what this is suggesting, the bill requires compensation for facilitating access to news in any way, in any amount. So that's a really important point. So I share news all the time. And a lot of the news I share comes from the CBC, as you folks know. And the reason why I like sharing a lot of the news from the CBC is because I'm already forced as a taxpayer to pay for this corrupt propaganda institution. So as someone who's paying for this stuff, of course I have full and free access to it. And I can share it freely available and not have to worry about anyone telling me I can't. Because once again, I am allowed. And even when I click on, whether it's on Globe and Mail, Global News, CTV, if it's a link I can click on ctvnews.com or .ca, and it's freely available to me, and then I go ahead and I share that on Facebook, I'm sharing it. It was something I'm probably paying for that too, right? But if I share that on social media, well, this is what they're trying to do. This bill will basically force, for all of us who want to share information, they're going to try to force, like these social media platforms to pay. So the CBC, Globe and Mail, CTV, to pay all these. And think about it, CBC is actually going to be the largest benefactor of this if it actually goes through. CBC, who already is subsidized by us against our will, we're forced to subsidize the CBC to the tune of over $1 billion a year. Then the rest of the established media have been propped up and bailed out by the Trudeau Liberals to the tune of $600 million, $595 million. And now, on top of that, and then all the things that they're trying to suppress and censor and silence our voices, just like now, which is probably why a lot of my videos and streams get very minimal views. Who knows how many ways they censor me or suppress my content, right? But even that is not enough. I guess what? How many people are watching this stream right now? Well, according to the number here, there's 10 people watching the stream right now. 10 people. I don't think there was any much more than 30 of them even at the beginning, there was 30 people. So apparently they're so scared that even for someone like me that might have 30 people watching, like we're such a threat that now they need to force, like I say, these social media platforms to benefit the establishment against us. I don't get paid by anybody other than those of you who want to generously donate, and the maybe $100 I get in payouts from the monetization on YouTube, right? Actually, I'm starting to get a little bit. I haven't got a payout yet on the alternative platforms, Rumble and Odyssey, but that's because there's just not enough people watching me over there. As low as the numbers are over here, there's not as many people even over there because a lot of people don't even know I'm over there, which is, you folks should spread this stuff around. Because that's the other thing I got to point out. Anyways, I won't read too much more of that, but if you want, like I say, that's going to be linked in the description. Well, but this is very devastating and damaging, and it's going to have a huge, profound effect if we don't. But I will say this, yeah, if we're going to be, this is what I mean. This is what I'm trying to say. If you think that I could be, if the things I say, right, if the pushback that I offer, if the information that I provide, if the ideas I come up with, if all that stuff, if you think that I do that in a superior manner to the establishment, to these folks in the CBC, the CTV and stuff, well, like I say, we need to be able, I need to be able, things don't come out of my ass, just like with the CBC and CTV. We all have to provide. I mean, I've worked for doing this kind of stuff for over 10 years now. And I'd say 90 in the grand scheme of things, 98% of the, I don't know how many things I've shared, talked about. I mean, the things I've done for the last 10 years, 90 high percentage of that it was all done with zero compensation, not a fucking dime. Right. And I mean, for the most part, I'm fine with that. But for the people who want us to get out from underneath the establishment, like I say, until there's some actual financial support and backing to those of us who do. And like I say, as much as I even like Andrew Lawton and Candace from True North and, you know, some of those other, they're still a little bit on the fence. Like they're doing a much better job than the establishment. But you know, the only people that are given the 100% truth, like full out in your face truth, are people like me. But apparently, I don't know. Apparently, not. I don't know. Even the ones that want to hear the truth don't really. They want to hear it, but how many people are actually putting in the effort, the work, or putting the money in, the skin in the game to make sure that that happens? Now, I myself, I'm trying once again. I've reached out. I want to do a panel, right? And I've got lots of interest, but you know, the only people who are interested being on my panel are other libertarians because we're unafraid. You know, we can defend our ideas. But I've yet to find anyone. Actually, no, I have found one conservative. Actually, I will say there is one conservative, and actually he identifies as conservative, and he is willing to be on the panel. And you know, more than likely, he will be the one that I will select because there's not a whole lot of interest elsewhere. But he's also, I think, a good voice and a great spokesman. But once again, I'm pillaring. He's got his own thing, to be honest with you. So I don't know, but I would like to have a liberal. Like I say, I have lots of ideas, but without money, doesn't mean squat. I mean, I could create multiple businesses. Who knows? I could have the potential to create a media organization that would challenge the status quo. It'll never going to happen if no one's willing to invest in me or give me a chance. That's just never going to happen. It's just, but it is what it is, folks. It's not just me. There's other people too. But so, you're going to get the world you live in, the country you live in, the place you live, the jurisdiction. You're going to get what you're willing to support, right? That's basically what it is at the end of the day. So I'm going to move on from that. Okay, what's another one here? Oh yeah. So now we're going to get into the Charest stuff because yeah, this stuff here is crazy stuff. There we go. Yeah, this is it. There we go. So here we go. This one's out of CTV with a headline: Poilievre most liked among CPC PPC voters. Charest drawing support from center, according to this survey. This report by Sarah Turnbull, March. So this was back March 22nd. So it's a little old, obviously a little old. But anyway, so this is actually a good thing. And this is one thing, and it's going to happen eventually, although we might not have to worry about this for years if the NDP Liberal coalition stays in place, right? But yeah, so the CPC and PPC voters, basically the ones that, well, I mean, there's a substantial base of the CPC who are very much sick of the status quo and the establishment. Those are the ones who would vote for Poilievre. But there's some insiders in the Conservative Party who are very much all about maintaining the establishment as well. Now, PPC voters, yes, I would imagine if you're a PPC voter, I know for me, yeah, I tried supporting them once. Yeah, fool me once, never again. Because, like I say, Maxime Bernier, I don't know what his problem is, or the people in his party, but they've all, for some reason, as much as they like spewing the rhetoric, they're all about freedom, like individual freedom, fairness, all the things that libertarians promote, except apparently they want to ignore libertarians like myself entirely. So can you trust people? It's like, I'm all about the kind of freedom that you tout there, Bennett, but I don't ever want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. I don't want him nothing. So it's like, okay, all right, maybe not so much, right? Maybe he is like some people were saying he's a bit of an egotistic person and he only started the party. I don't like to attribute the reason why, because I'm not in the man's head. But I will say, if you're a PBC voter, I mean, you can hold out again, but we've had 2 elections where the PPC has been in existence. 0 seats, larger increase of the sport. I will admit that. What was it, like 1 point something percent first time? And it was like 3 point something percent the second time. So doubling. So good, but a gazillion miles away from getting enough support to actually, be the next government, right? So it's either the PPC folks, just keep voting for the PPC and hoping that eventually, and, it might happen. Maybe in 20, 30 years, you might get enough support that, the PPC can win a minority or a majority government. Who knows what be left of this country? I don't know. But the PPC voters will have the choice of either support Poilievre, which I would imagine most of the PPC supporters, if you like Maxime, chances are you like Poilievre too, right? Because most people that I know who like Maxime also like Pierre Poilievre. So I'm just going to make a guess here right now. If there is an election, well, if it were held right now, I would like to think that actually a lot of the PPC supporters would actually willingly vote for Poilievre, right? Rather than, and I hate to say this, throw away their vote for the PPC. Because I know if you do vote for the PPC just based on your principle, I guess I can kind of get that. And you get that. I guess it'll feel good to you, right? I guess, but it's not going to get the outcome that you would probably want. So I don't know. That's a dilemma that we've all had to deal with. But it's funny how they say, but Charest is drawing support from the center. Let me tell you, I've been watching this man's tweets over there on the Twitter. And I love reading the comments, or sorry, the replies, and just hovering over the profile picture over on Twitter. You know where I'm seeing a lot of support for Charest is people who identify as liberals. Yeah, I'm serious. I was scrolling through, and you get all these people, Charest would be much better than that far-right guy, Poilievre, and then you hover over the thing, liberal, something, or, their name will have there's always something in their descriptor that's like, oh, that's a liberal supporter for sure, right? And sure enough, so they can say the center, because that's how the CTV wants to paint it, because obviously Charest is part of the establishment. He was a former liberal premier, now running as a conservative. But so he is part of that LibCon establishment duopoly. He's the guy that wants to maintain the status quo. He is the establishment. He's the face of the establishment, which is why the liberals like, well, Trudeau's our establishment man, but let's say the conservatives ever win, right? Because they probably recognize Canadians are getting sick and tired of Trudeau. Even liberals are probably getting sick and tired of Trudeau, right? So they're like, well, what if the conservatives actually win? Well, if the conservatives are better than win, well, we at least want a liberal light like Charest, right? And that's what we're seeing. And they're definitely touting him, promoting him, and supporting him, which is, if the liberals are all in support and agreement that Charest is going to be a good leader for the Conservative Party, well, there's probably a pretty good chance, if you're an agile conservative, that it's the exact opposite of that, right? I suggest, anyways. That's just me thinking out loud. But listen to this one. Let me bring this one up. And to show you just how much of an establishment figure, and he doesn't seem to even recognize it much. Well, that's the thing. He's so much part of the establishment. He's too blind to acknowledge from his position how this comes across to someone who isn't part of the establishment, right? So listen to this headline at True North. Charest tells Poilievre his support for truckers disqualifies him from being PM. It's reported by Cosman again, April 8th, 2022. So think about it. His support for truckers disqualifies him from being a PM. For you or I, if you're watching, we're all like, we love the fact that Poilievre supports the truckers. Like that's one of the greatest things I've seen Poilievre do, he was brave enough, and he knew he was going to get a lot of political backlash. Of course he did. But he was brave enough to say, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Right? Now, like I say, might have been a little political motivations there. Who knows? Once again, I'm not a politician, and I know they do some crazy shit. But he's at the very least out there and willing to say the right things, right? And challenge the status quo and the establishment, and at least give Canadians an alternative voice and perspective out there on that media landscape. Something that's different and an alternative to the same old shit, right? From every other establishment figure and party, pretty much, right? But to suggest that by Poilievre supporting the truckers that disqualifies, like I say, it's projecting. He's saying that because he's an establishment guy, and the establishment figures that he talks to, the kind of supporters who would support him, who support the establishment, they're all saying the same thing. He says like, oh no, or this guy doesn't deserve to PM. If he supported those truckers, screw this guy, right? So Charest is saying, yeah, see, yeah, this. But once again, Charest, you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of establishment figures, liberals, neocons, right? Those who represent the status quo. And like I say, we're in a totally different boat here. And there's a substantial portion of the Canadian population who are in a completely different boat. So, yeah, your perspective, it's not resonating with people other than you and your liberal counterparts. Right? Conservative leadership, hopeful and former MB or former Quebec Liberal Premier Jean Charest attacked rival candidate MP Poilievre on Friday, saying Poilievre can't be prime minister if he supported the Freedom Convoy. Charest accused Poilievre of backing people breaking the laws. Really? Only thing I've heard most of them being charged with is mischief. And once again, they still, and mischief. That's one of those charges. Anyways, never mind. I don't even waste any. I won't have to waste any time over this stuff. And alleged that his support for freedom demonstrators is qualified from being prime minister. Your support for freedom demonstrators, like I said, that's a sentence all alone that you could have a lot of fun with, right? I have a competitor by the name of Mr. Poilievre who supported, as you know, the blockade. If you want to be a leader in this country and a legislator, you can't make laws and break laws, Charest told CTV News. Laws are not a buffet table. If you're a legislator from which you choose what you want, because what you're really saying to people is, I'm above the law. Yeah, just forget about the fact that Trudeau actually invoked the Emergency Act that put him above the law, and there was no longer any laws to restrain him, right? But yeah, forget that. No, Poilievre is them truckers who broke what? Arbitrary law. Governments created so many laws that they could basically charge anyone on any given day for something. It's not hard to criminalize people these days, as we've seen, right? But yeah, just hilarious. Poilievre has frequently spoken in support of the protest movement. He has not, however, expressed any support for blockades. Oh, well, that's what they're put. Yeah, exactly. He never said that. Just talked with hundreds of cheerful, peaceful, saw the earth, give your shirt off their back Canadians at a trucker protest. They choose freedom over fear, tweeted Poilievre. So yeah, of course, Poilievre wasn't out there saying he supports the blockades, although even if he did, whatever. But like I say, the establishment, they don't like people who are challenging the establishment. Imagine that. Shocking revelation. Now, let me just get this one more here real quick. I'm on a roll today, folks. I don't know how many articles. That's the thing. I could just do videos, individual videos, but not enough people watch the stuff anyways. So to me, I'm just trying to be much more efficient. Like I say, if people want to pay or if people want to just pay attention, like I say, I don't even care if people don't pay, but if I can at least get some attention, I'll expand on lots of things. But until that day comes, yeah, you're going to get what you get. Okay. And obviously this isn't towards you people who do all lots of things. Like when I'm saying these things, talk to the people who actually watch my stuff. So I really want to get this out to the people who don't watch my stuff. But this is the problem I have, I guess, whatever. So look at this. Like this headline, Global News. Like what a ridiculous headline. Look at this. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Most Canadians support Liberal NDP deal, but feel it betrayed voters. Now, how can you say that most Canadians support the Liberal NDP deal, but feel it betrayed voters? that, I mean, I know I covered this in a past live stream, but to me, it's just because it's all tied in with this stuff, right? It's like, does that not, how do you write a headline like that? It's not that long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's only 12 words. How can you read 12 words and realize, well, that, and read that back? Like you proofreading. Okay, most Canadians support Liberal NDP deal, but feel it betrayed. Like, how can you square that? It's like saying Canadians love water, or Canadians love swimming in the river, but they can't stand getting wet. Oh no, I guess no. Actually, that wouldn't even work. See, I'm trying to run this stuff. I was like, oh, maybe they're wearing dry suits. Right? So I'm even fighting my own. Trust me, I've got like two things going on in my brain usually at once. I'm giving you too much information here. I know TMI, but I'm always willing to challenge even the stuff that's coming my own mouth. That's the thing. That's kind of, I guess, how my brain works. Is that's how I try to get as close as humanly possible to what I can perceive or should be truth. Is just constantly pushing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth till I get closer to something that at least remotely resembles the truth. Whereas most people just, they take whatever they get first off the shelf. Here you go. See if that'll work for you, right? But I mean, anyways, yeah, I'll pull this off. I mean, what a ridiculous headline. Oh, let me bring this one up too, because this is a big deal. Because you all know the mass immigration thing. I've reported on that many times. Many times. And yeah, all those videos are still there, all 1,300 plus of them that I've done over the years. If you ever want to check them out. But here we go. This is a BNN Bloomberg. Canada needs to get to 100 million people by 2100. BlackRock's Wiseman. Yeah, 100 million, folks. 100 million people in this country. Like they're on, and I'm telling you, they might get there if because they're, like I say, they're trying to bring in basically close now to upwards between, if you take everyone, so the immigrants that are actually coming here, the ones that are pouring across the border, and now you got the Ukrainian ones, like, and the hundreds of millions of dollars they're sending over there. I'm not even going to get into that, but I mean, think about the immigrants now they're going to bring from Ukraine. So we're going to be like getting upwards of 500,000 a year. Yeah. Might very well get to 100 million. But what kind of country, though, is it going to be anything remotely resembling what Canada was or should be? I don't know. I have no idea what this country is going to look like with 100 million people coming to this country based on the kind of immigration initiatives and the people who are wanting to bring those people to this country. Because once again, think about the kind of people that Trudeau liberals want to bring this country. Obviously, they want people that are, think like them, act like them, and will vote for them. I would imagine that's a probably important thing, right? If you're going to increase your voter population, you probably want those voters to support you, especially you're the kind of people who promote that stuff. In reality, what it is, all the boomers a lot of the old boomers, especially the government working ones, right? It's like they want to retire and keep that scheme, that Ponzi scheme they built up over the years. They want to keep that going long off in the retirement. They have set up their heaven on earth, and they're hell bent in making sure it doesn't go anywhere. And they're willing to sacrifice their kids, their grandkids, and all of our grandkids and many more generations, as many as need be, to fuel their entitled lifestyles that they've had and sustained for so long, for decades now. That's just the reality. But yeah, 100 million people, folks. I won't go into reading it. No point in even playing the video. I did listen to it. Actually, can't stand listening to the way these people go on. They're just so willing to sell. And that's the thing. If you're a young Canadian, you have no idea, like all these people. I was, probably a boomer himself, I would suggest. And once again, it's not all boomers. Of course, there's some great boomers. Hell, my stepdad is probably one of the greatest boomers I know. Awesome guy. So this is, when I say that generalized statement, it doesn't mean all. There's a section of our society, and to make that plain English as simple as possible, that's why I give these caveats, though, so you know that there are exceptions, outliers, but yeah, there's a substantial portion of that boomer cohort, right? The bad ones among us, who are more than willing to economically slave as many people as humanly possible to sustain that entitled, greedy, selfish lifestyle that they've built up for themselves for decades now. I've watched it, folks, and it's only gotten worse. Hasn't got any better. So, like I say, that'll be included. Oh, This one is really important. I don't know if you folks are aware of this or not. You probably are, because most of the few of you who do watch my streams are usually pretty smart and on top of things. But I'll bring this up too. I mean, Rex Murphy did an article too. Here's one out of CTV. Second man charged in Ottawa arson case has no link to Freedom Convoy protest police. So now both of them have been caught. I don't know if you remember seeing that picture. Oh, actually, the picture's not shown in this particular one. But yeah, remember those two? And I even covered it. Remember when I was doing the live stream and I covered it, and we were looking at the pictures back then, and I saw that one guy, one of the arson guys, and they had that fucking mask hanging off his ear, and the other guy had like some fucking funky colored hair, and she was like, wait a minute, these don't look like the stereotypical typical trucker type people. These look like, people were causing shit. These look like maybe some Antifa, not necessarily Antifa, but some of these leftist activists. And yeah, as it turns out now, I don't, like I say, I'm not going to say who they were exactly or whatever, or label them in particular ways, but we do know at the very least that the media, the Trudeau liberals, they used the pretense that, look at, those truckers are down there. Look at how bad they are. They're even trying to start fires, which could kill. Like, think about it. If you start a fire in an apartment building, you could have killed people. But that was the pretense. That was just one of the excuses. The fear tactics they used. We gotta go after those truckers, those protesters, because look at them. Look at what they're doing. Meanwhile, now that we know, but of course, a little too late now, a little too late to admit the truth. Now, CTV, better late than never, so that at least I can try to help get this information out there. But once again, Canadians don't watch my shit. Canadians watch CTV. Canadians watch CBC. Canadians watch Global News. Canadians watch Global Mail. They all told them, bad people, those truckers, and look at them try to start fire. And they're not paying attention to this. Oh, they're not paying attention to this. And besides, it wouldn't matter now anyways, would it? Because the damage has already been done. Now, this will be great. This will be excellent for the court cases that are going to come to fruition. That's where this kind of stuff will come in handy. Oh, and let me get this one last thing. One last thing, folks. One last thing. And then I'm going to tie it up. I'm going to tie it up and just after. Give me one more, folks. One more. So this one here, and it's out of Reuters. I use their own media outlets, right? Because even they once in a while have to admit the truth. They have to. I mean, especially when it's something that's so blatantly true, they can't even play the fact check like they did before. Like when it's so blatantly truthful and true and obvious, they're like, well, I guess we got to admit it. Now they will, of course, try to politically spin it, but here it is, April 2nd, 2022, or 7th. Sorry. This Reuters, like I say, Azov fighter video overshadows Zelensky's address to Greek lawmakers. So as this Azov fighter, so the Azov battalion, if you're familiar with it yet, which you probably are the real Nazis. Apparently, real Nazis, real National Socialists. It's real over there, right? Major nationalists, major socialists, from what I gather. And they're over there. And apparently, they have quite violent tendencies. Not big fans of certain subgroups, subsects, or groups in society. So, yeah, the Nazis that, we're always told by the left that we're supposed to be fearful of, right? But yet here we are with I guess this Zelensky. Would he be considered left? That's the thing. Like I say, this kind of revisionism. What it is CBC is they're trying to write history right now, so that they just like now when people the ill-informed say, "Oh no, Hitler, he was a right winger." Well, that's because the CBC types back then were already busy painting a National Socialist like Hitler as a right winger. Which, once again, what right-wingers are into socialism? I don't know any right-wingers that are into socialism. So, once again, but this is what they do. This is what they do. So that at some point in time in the future, this is the story they want to write. So that, like I say, people in the future will say, "Oh, look, all those people who said they were fighting for the freedom. No, really, they were just a bunch of Nazis," right? Once again, they're trying to set up a narrative, not just to convince the population now, but to keep that going forward long into the future. Let me just, like I say, read a little bit here. Athens, April 7, Reuters. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's address to the Greek parliament on Thursday caused an outrage from opposition parties after a man who identified himself as an ethnic Greek member of Ukraine's ultra-nationalist Azov battalion appeared in a video. Zelensky spoke about the destruction of the Russian besieged Ukrainian port of Mariupol, home to thousands of ethnic Greeks, and appealed to Athens for help. Read more. During his speech, he showed a video with a message by a man who identified himself as a member of the Azov battalion, a far-right militia now part of Ukraine's National Guard. So now, like this Azov battalion, like I say, far-right, like these Nazis or whatever, like these people that, like I say, would normally by the established media, these are bad people. That's from what we've always heard, right? Far-right and these Nazis, they're bad people, right? They're supposed to be bad people. But now these far-right nationalists, these Nazis, they're actually part of Ukraine's National Guard now. So they've been integrated into it. So, I don't know. Seems pretty weird to me that you want to incorporate a bunch of Nazis, especially if you're the kind of people who want to fight. Like, that's the thing. Ukraine's over there saying that Putin's a Nazi and they want to fight against the Nazi Putin while they got Nazis in the regime. Well, I guess, if you got your own Nazi, I guess it takes one to know one, right? Maybe it takes one to fight one too. I don't know, but at the very least, that's why I don't get into this playing side in this conflict, and I never have. I stick to my principles, right? When it comes to war and conflict, especially it has nothing to do with my country, it's like, no, I'm not picking sides, and that's why I'm always out in front and taking the proper position, the principal position that's everlasting. I can come back in 5 years and I still agree with my position, no matter what happens, because I'm taking the principal position, right? I address you as a Greek by origin. I am Mikhail. My grandfather fought against the Nazis. I participated in the defense of Ukraine through the Azov battalion, he said. Zelensky, who was invited to address the Greek parliament by Conservative Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, received a standing ovation from lawmakers present in the room. But the video caused backlash on social media and an angry reaction from leftist parties. Shortly after the speech, the head of the leftist Syriza party, Alex Spira, said the incident was a provocation. Solidarity with the Ukrainian people is a given, but the Nazis cannot have a say in parliament, he tweeted. His tweet had won more than 3,900 likes by Thursday evening. Anyways, a Greek government spokesperson responded that the message of a member of the Azov battalion was a mistake and was mistaken and inappropriate. Oops, my bad. Well, just like Trudeau, all you got to do, no matter how many bad things, no matter how terrible we are, I guess they figure if you just apologize for it later, then it's okay. All right, then. Anyways, folks, thanks to all you fine folks who did join the stream. I'm going to check down at the bottom, go through maybe a few of the comments here and then see what's going on. Hey, Anarcha, how the heck are you? Nice to see you. What's this? Thick Beaver. Thick Beaver. Oh my God. Oh, that's quite the handle. I like it. Yeah. I think so too, Stuart. I mean, come on, just based on everything, right? Doesn't it seem that way? Doesn't it seem that way? Like I say, it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. I mean, there's a pretty good chance it's a duck, right? Yeah, it's jeez. Anyways, thanks, Stuart. Black flag. Les Charest. Hey, is it Les Charest? Les Charest. No, it's Les, right? Les Charest. Black flag. Oh, black flag. Oh. LOL, I'm a boomer. I'm only 59. Actually, that's one thing when you're talking about demographics, and I hate the generalized things too. But like I say, it's applicable in many situations. As long as, like I say, that's why I'm always prudent, making sure, pointing out, no, I'm not accusing all, right? It's ridiculous. And I don't even I'm not even a fan of generalized statements, but sometimes it's prudent, right? But one thing about generations is I would say the biggest discrepancies would probably be on the tail ends of it, right? So if you're one of the older boomers or one of the younger boomers, I'd say there's probably a pretty good chance that you may very well identify more or closely associate you and how you perceive things in life with the generation either below or above you. So if you're one of the older generations, let's say you're the a boomer who was born in 19 was the first year of them was 46. So let's say you were born in 1946. You may very well, because the silent generation, someone in the silent generation is just 1 year older than you. So there's really good chance that you and that person in the silent generation, even though you technically are from two different generations, may very well identify and feel the same way about things and perceive of the world in the same manner, or at least somewhat along the same manner. Same with on the lower end of it. Some of the younger boomers, and I even know this myself, some of the younger boomers that I know, I get along as a Gen Xer, we get along famously because I'm one of the older Gen Xers, right? So like I say, it's not one of those clear cut cases where you can just say boomers bad, Gen X good. There's no such thing as that, obviously. But there are, certain things in a particular demographic situation where some things are actually true. And you do end up with that kind of a cultural mindset or mind shift based on who you are, the age demographics, the kind of people you surround yourself with, your location obviously plays that too. But a lot of things are contributing factors. I just use age as one of those things. But once again, thankfully, and hopefully, Lorraine, Armstrong, that like I say, nothing against boomers in particular. At the individual level, like I say, I deal with human beings as the individual, right? There's bad Gen Xers, there's bad millennials, there's bad, Gen Zers and stuff. I get that. And, like I say, most of the times I try to use those collective terms in such a manner. But anyways, sorry. Work together. Yeah. Okay. That was a recognized. But last thing I want to do is get people like fighting intergenerational fighting, because there's lots of that already takes place in betrayal. Yeah, lib NDP. I agree. Thanks for mentioning that. There, it is a betrayal. It is. Nobody voted right for the whole point. Why Canadians chose to keep the Trudeau Liberals in the minority, because even the Liberals are like, I don't fucking trust this guy as much as no, I'm not enough to give him that kind of power, right? And yet here he got it anyway. So complete runaround democracy. That's the thing. These people claim that they're all about democracy, but boy, oh boy, they're more than willing to find any method possible if they can avoid dealing with democracy, right? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Tax Slave. Take care as well. Anyway, so that should do it there, folks. What are we at? 2.5 hours. Thanks to all you folks who did join the stream. Really appreciate it. I'm not a Gen Xer. No, I know you're, I know you're a baby boomer, but like I say, you may very, anyways, don't worry about this generational stuff there, folks. Like I say, I deal with people on the individual level. So that's really what it comes down to today. As a libertarian, I will treat you and respect you, and like however you treat me. That's the way I go in my life, no matter what demographic, no matter any other superficial aspect of who you are. I just treat people the way they treat me, right? That's the way it goes. I have a live, let live mentality. But anyway, thanks all you great folks. Thanks for joining the stream. I really appreciate it. I'm going to probably do another one next weekend. Like I say, I'm still putting it out there. I've got the feelers out there. I'm getting some interest for people. And if I can't get, like I say, a liberal and an environmentalist to do the panel, well, then maybe it'll just be me, a conservative, and maybe a couple other libertarians, and maybe we'll just sit down and because I just like to have a panel of people with different ideas and perspectives. And I will say one thing about libertarians is other than our principles, we do have different ideas and perspectives on things. So, you know what, maybe I might end just going with something like that. Anyways, thanks to all you folks that joined the stream. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I